of cyber safety to the nooks and corners of Telangana. I would request you to please stand up and present yourselves. And ladies and gentlemen, a big round of applause for their work. Thank you so much. I reiterate, this is an effort to build spaces that empower women so that they can be equal partners in society and achieve their best. Let's now take a look at the journey of Call It Out since its launch.
Harassment is a grim reality that impacts a large majority of women in India today. And with the digital age, new forms of harassment are cropping up each day, affecting the mental well-being of women. As a nation, we need to come together to put an end to this, and that's what Call It Out Because It's Not Okay, an initiative by News18 Network and Truecaller aims to do. With this initiative, we are encouraging women to not just stop at blocking, but to speak up and call out harassment cases by reporting it to the right authorities. While this is a long and tough battle to fight, our vision is to bring a change in the way India deals with harassment, to educate women of the resources available for them to report harassment, and to get our message loud and clear that it's not okay for anyone to harass anybody. With policymakers, law enforcers, activists, mental health experts, women's organizations and influencers, we are discussing ways to combat harassment against women. We are using our social media presence to take the fight against harassment to a larger audience, making it a people's movement.
Ensuring women's safety and every individual's safety should be a priority for everyone.
We are driving advocacy in the True Cyber Safe curriculum, an awareness program that focuses upon improving netizens' resilience and capacity to access the digital world safely, increase awareness on cyber frauds and its impact on communities. And we are traversing the length and breadth of the nation to speak with women on the ground about the issue of harassment, sharing inspirational stories of women who have fought harassment. We are empowering everyone, women and men, to tackle harassment, to report harassment, and to call it out because it's not okay. To report any case of harassment, the government has set up helpline numbers 112 and 181 along with a dedicated portal on cybercrime.gov.in. Most of us are not even aware of these government initiatives and tools to call out harassment and fight back. News18 Network and Truecaller, through its It's Not Okay campaign, have been striving to create awareness about these initiatives by garnering 1.75 lakhs of dedicated TV seconds across 15 national and regional channels.
It's time to report harassment and just call it out.
And reaching around 52 million people on digital. Our thought behind taking this crucial step was that unless women don't feel safe in society, how can we expect them to contribute equally and make this world a better place to live in? The Call It Out Because It's Not Okay initiative gained momentum by addressing the issue of harassment from all angles.
To report harassment,
dial 112
or 181 or log on to
cybercrime.gov.in. Learn how to tackle harassment
by visiting
itsnotok.in.
In the last 2.5 months, various senior ministers like Smriti Irani, Rajiv Chandrasekhar, Devu Singh Chauhan, representatives of the Delhi police, and celebrities like Ravina Tandon, Huma Qureshi, Aditi Rao Haidari have cited these helpline numbers on national television channels and digital to ensure people start using these numbers to report harassment.
Dial 112 or 181
or log on to cybercrime.gov.in.
The verified women's helpline number 181 and emergency number 112 has also been made available on the home screen of the Truecaller app so that help can be just one tap away. We are deepening our fight to minimize harassment in society by taking these conversations to various Indian states. Your constant support can make a difference. So join the movement against harassment.
Call it out.
Call it out.
Call it out because it's not okay.
We believe that the fight against harassment has to be a collaborative effort, with key stakeholders across India playing their part to end this menace. Lending his support to Call It Out Telangana is Mr. K.T. Ramarao, Cabinet Minister of IT, Electronics and Communications, Municipal Administration and Urban Development and Industries and Commerce Departments, Telangana. Do listen in.
As India's internet economy surges ahead, so does the growing threat of cyber attacks, cyber crimes, and the online harassment of women. A strong legislation coupled with effective implementation can go a long way in ensuring online security. As Telangana is on its way to becoming the first state in the country to have its own legislation on cybercrime, joining us at Call It Out Telangana Town Hall is our esteemed guest, K.T. Ramarao, Cabinet Minister for IT, Electronics and Communication, also Industries and Commerce. Mr. K.T. Ramarao, appreciate your time, sir.
Thank you.
Hyderabad is one of the backbones of the IT sector in India. We would like to know more about the importance of digital in your governance and the initiatives that are key to your government.
Well, lots of digital awareness campaigns. In fact, much before the government of India had started Digital India campaign, government of Telangana had embarked on a Digital Telangana mission, and through which we've not only promoted digital literacy, but we've also ensured that a lot of citizen-facing services have been digitized. In fact, we're one of those few states in India, which excels in delivering services through the digital infrastructure that we have built over the last several years. One of the things that we take a lot of pride in, much before demonetization, much before the COVID, in fact, the number of digital transactions that were happening through our Me Seva network is something truly astounding. More than a few crores of transactions that have happened, and more than a few $1 billion of worth transactions have happened through this Me Seva system. So a lot of digital infrastructure improvements that have happened and that continue to be ramped up even as we speak. Of course, COVID has shown us that we are more and more reliant, on the digital infrastructure. So we continuously ramp up, and most importantly, like I said, government to government and government to citizen connect is something that we take a lot of pride in.
India's digital economy, sir, is growing exponentially, but one of the major challenges in this digital era is online safety. Please give us an overview of the extent of online harassment, cybercrime and cyberbullying that is there in Telangana. I'm sure you're privy to some data and the measures that are being taken by your government to address this. Also, yours is the first state to draft its own legislation in cybercrime. What will be its role in strengthening women's safety in the digital world?
Well, as we become more and more dependent on networks, as we become more and more reliant on connectivity virtually, as we become more and more, in fact, addicted, as we get more and more addicted to all the digital media platforms, I think, one of the occupational hazards, if you have to put it that way, is unfortunately, this whole abusive content that, gets thrown at us, and also the other unfortunate, possible outcome is again cybercrime. So these are the two biggest, challenges that any government or any institution currently faces. And one of the things we have done as a government is we have, in fact, embarked on a mission along with NALSAR, to come out with country's first cybercrime legislation, which I believe will set the tone and the benchmark in the rest of the country. Now, what do I mean, and what do I expect, to come out of it? Maria, let's all, understand that while freedom of expression, freedom of speech is important, it is not right to abuse, or it is not right to harass. So therefore, we have to draw that fine line. while it is important in a democracy, and that too in the world's largest democracy, to ensure that freedom of speech is not curtailed, it is also equally important that we understand and respect each other's private spaces, each other's images as well. Now, one of the most important things, especially in the last, that has been witnessed in the last few years, is a lot of online harassment, especially of women. Now, this is something that we have taken very seriously, and we are in fact, incorporating several elements to ensure that women online, especially if they are targeted or harassed, they should call out, because it is definitely not okay. And we will ensure through our legislation that the strictest of the most stringent punishments would be accorded to any of the perpetrators, irrespective of whatever anonymity that they might take cover under.
I'm sure this legislation will go a long way in enhancing women's safety online. Mr. KTR, I must say this, that you have been quite proactive and have helped several people fight online harassment. We have seen how you came to the rescue of 2 women journalists as well who approached you on social media. Please shed light on the recourse available to everyone to report online and offline harassment, including the role of she teams in your police force.
Well, the first thing is I'd like to point out, there are legislations which are already in place, which can actually be used to enforce this very effectively. So one of the legislations that I can refer to is the Union IT Act, which has already been in place for the last 2 decades or more. That can certainly come to the rescue of anyone, in fact, who complains or who feels harassed online, irrespective of gender actually. But more importantly, like you pointed out, in Telangana, we have made a very specific effort to ensure that our women, our young women, our women, our girl child, are protected from online and offline harassment as well. And so we have formed she teams. We have also come out with a number of initiatives. We have even come out with specific mobile apps. And we also have, like I pointed out, come out with a legislation which will ensure that the stringent and the most strict punishments are given under the IPC to any of those people who have been found to be guilty.
Telangana has also established the Cyber Security Center of Excellence, which acts as a nerve center in Hyderabad to protect, uplift, and build a solid ecosystem for cybersecurity and privacy. What's really the vision behind it?
What is a reality in today's digitally connected world, where we have gazillion bytes of data being created every single day, is that we are not as secure as we would like to think we are. So therefore, I think each and every one of us, irrespective of whether we are an individual or an institution or a government, I think we all need to take cybersecurity far more seriously. And we as a country, in fact, need to realize that the next war will not be fought on the battlefields. It will be fought in the cyber arena, and it will be one of those wars where not a single drop of blood will be shed directly, but it will hurt economy. It will actually destroy. It has the potential to destroy institutions. So therefore, I think it's extremely important that India and our states take up this very, very seriously. And that is exactly why the government of Telangana has created a center of excellence on cybersecurity. Our agenda and our aim is to actually create employment, at the same time also provide solutions to the rest of the world as well. In fact, we are collaborating with a number of startups. We are also collaborating with a number of other institutions, countries like Israel, which have done exceedingly well on cybersecurity. Like I said, on one hand, we can create employment through cyber warriors and programs such as that. Simultaneously, we can also ensure that our institutions, our enterprises are made safer by way of this. So I believe that India not only has the ability to provide solutions for our own institutions, but also for the rest of the world.
News18 Network and Truecaller are running a public awareness campaign, Call It Out Because It's Not Okay, to encourage everyone, especially women, to fight harassment while educating them about the resources available to report harassment. How critical do you think, sir, it is to report harassment and to call it out?
I think it's absolutely important. I think to shy away and to even basically feel ashamed about it because somebody's been harassing you or somebody's been basically abusing you is something which should not be encouraged. Because what you permit, if you continue to allow for somebody else to do it, it is indirectly promoting it. So therefore, what I would say is, it's definitely a very, very important initiative of both Network 18 and Truecaller. I congratulate both of you, and I in fact assure you that I will discuss with our Honorable Home Minister, and what we could potentially do is set up a separate cell for those women who would like to call out online abuse. We will happily set up a separate cell and ensure that dedicated resources are provided, dedicated people are provided, human resources are provided, which might help and Telangana become a shining example to the rest of the country on this front.
That certainly is a big promise and I would say a big achievement of our campaign with Telangana government now joining us. Mr. KTR, really appreciate that. A separate cell for women who call out online harassment would certainly set a shining example. Through our campaign, we are also educating people about how they can stay safe online through the True Cyber Safe curriculum. In your view, how important is it to follow digital hygiene and apprise ourselves with knowledge about how we can prevent cyber attacks?
Well, I think most of us have learned, after we burnt our fingers, a lot of times, you get cheated, you get abused, you get harassed, and then you learn your lesson the hard way. I think it's extremely important to learn from somebody else's, the smartest of people always learn from somebody else's experiences. So therefore, if we can actually design a curriculum, if we can actually create an awareness campaign and, create digital hygiene as you called it, I think it's extremely important for all youngsters, irrespective of whether they're men or women, to actually assimilate it and use it to good effect.
And lastly, sir, since you're also the Industries and IT Minister, what role can private tech companies play in driving the safety agenda? What would be your guidance and advice to them? And please share your thoughts on our campaign through which we want to empower women to take action against harassment and also encourage men, because we think that men have to be a responsible ally and partner in this fight against online and offline harassment.
Well, Maria, firstly, I compliment Network 18 and Truecaller on this lovely initiative because I think it's extremely important as we are, like I said, becoming more and more reliant on, networks and virtual connectivity. I applaud, both of you for, both. At the same time, I think it's equally important for all of us to realize that, anybody, who's using the anonymity as a shield, anonymity as a guise, to abuse, harass, firstly, it's absolutely not cool. Secondly, it's actually a crime. So therefore, I think it's equally important to make sure that anyone who's involved in this also understands that what they're up to is actually a crime. And that deterrence by way of actually enforcing legislations, enforcing our acts, we should be setting a great example. The last thing I'd say, I think this whole campaign, call it out because it's not okay, is something that we all ought to take very, very seriously. You ought to involve the private sector. In fact, I would urge the private sector to use your corporate social responsibility funds to further this cause. I know of a number of corporate entities who would be certainly interested. I would also urge celebrities, cricketers, authors, other celebrities, movie stars, other personalities to also endorse this very strongly and to champion the cause and to spread the good word, to set great example for our youngsters and to ensure that they all behave as we become more and more dependent on the digital infrastructure.
Thank you, Mr. KTR, for sharing those valuable insights and taking out the time to interact with us.
Well, that was the Honorable Minister K.T. Ramarao's powerful message opening the Call It Out Telangana Town Hall. Let us now hear a few messages, very powerful messages that are supporting the Call It Out, It's Not Okay campaign.
We all need to come together to put up a fight against harassment. ensuring women's safety and every individual's safety should be a priority for everyone. I would like to applaud Truecaller and Network 18 for their anti-harassment campaign. Call it out because it's not okay. Don't just block. Call it out and join the movement. To report harassment, dial 112 or 181 and log on to cybercrime.gov.in.
It's not okay to ignore, tolerate, and suffer harassment silently. It's time to come together to take a stand against it by calling it out. When you speak up, they will stop. Join the fight against harassment. To report harassment, dial 112 or 181 or log on to cybercrime.gov.in. Learn how to tackle harassment by taking the True CyberSafe curriculum on itsnotok.in. Call it out because it's not okay.
Whether it's unsolicited texts or inappropriate calls, if the sender is harassing you, it's time to take action. Join the movement against harassment and call it out because it's not okay. To report harassment, dial 112 or 181 or log on to cybercrime.gov.in. Learn how to tackle harassment by taking the True CyberSafe curriculum on itsnotok.in. Call it out because it's not okay.
It's not okay for harassers to get away with what they do. Yes, it is not easy, but let's encourage women, create a safe environment for them to come forward and speak about their experiences. Join the fight against harassment. To report harassment, dial 112 or 181 or log on to cybercrime.gov.in. Learn to tackle harassment by taking the True CyberSafe curriculum on itsnotok.in. Call it out because it is not okay.
Our phone numbers are everywhere. And so are those who invade our personal spaces. 1 out of 5 women in India get inappropriate calls, and many more are stalked, abused, harassed online. No more watching from the sidelines. Join us as we crusade against harassment in a nationwide campaign for women's safety and report and expose the harassers. Truecaller and Network 18 present It's Not Okay. To report harassment, dial 112 or 181 or log on to cybercrime.gov.in. Learn how to tackle harassment by taking the True CyberSafe curriculum on itsnotok.in. Be the change. Don't just block. Call it out because it's not okay.
Let them know their free outgoing does not mean they can feel free to call you, whether it's unsolicited texts or inappropriate calls. If the sender is harassing you, it's time to take action. Join the movement against the harassment and call it out because it's not okay. To report harassment, dial 112 or 181 or log on to cybercrime.gov.in. Learn how to tackle harassment by taking the True CyberSafe curriculum on itsnotok.in. Call it out because it's not okay.
Our phone numbers are everywhere.
And so are those who invade our personal spaces.
1 out of 5 women in India get inappropriate calls.
And many more are stalked, abused, and harassed online.
अब चुप रहना option नहीं. No more watching from the sidelines.
Join us as we crusade against harassment.
In a nationwide campaign for women's safety.
अपने rights जानिए. Join the conversation and report and expose the harassers. Truecaller and Network 18 present #It'sNotOkay. To report harassment, dial 112 or 181 or log on to cybercrime.gov.in. Be the change. Don't just block. Call it out because it's not okay.
Stalked, blocked, deleted? How often do these calls leave you feeling anxious? Exactly why is it not okay to stay on silent mode anymore?
It's time to report harassment and just call it out. To report harassment, dial 112 or 181 or
gentlemen, may I now call upon stage Maria Shakil, Senior Political Editor, CNN News18, to conduct a freewheeling chat with Ms. Kalba Kuntila Kavita, leader of Telangana Rashtra Samiti, to get her insights on the issue of harassment and how the state is battling it from all fronts.
Hello everyone. We have with us a very special woman who has stood for issues close to her heart, and one such issue is online and offline harassment of women. Kavita is the first member of parliament from the state of Telangana. She is the daughter of the chief minister of the state, currently a member of legislative council, but I would see her as the face of women in the state of Telangana, someone who I admire greatly.
Thank you.
Let me get straight into my first question. As a woman in power, what are the kind of offline messages or concerns that you have?
Well, first of all, thank you, Maria Ji, and thank you, Truecaller and Network 18, for hosting this wonderful event here in Hyderabad. We did need to call out, we did need to say it's not okay, so I'm happy to be a part of this. And offline messaging, मुझे कोई message करे ऐसा तो हो ही नहीं सकता. But then, yeah, there are many cries out for help. There are many issues that are of concern today, and we try to address them one by one. We are doing that, and I'm happy somebody else also now has joined the bandwagon. As governments, as women leaders, we are more focused, and when we see a woman, even when we are in a rush, we stop, try and talk to them, understand their issue, and try to help them out.
As a woman leader, what is the kind of gender bias that you have faced? And do you continue to face it?
Not really. I have been one of the privileged, lucky few people in this country, I believe, in politics or any field. We've seen there is a huge gender bias. I am one of the luckiest person who happened to be not directly facing the bias, but when I was in the parliament, we used to, like a forum of women member of parliaments used to repeatedly request our Lok Sabha speaker, Sumitra Mahajanji. We used to tell her, ma'am, please don't only give us opportunity on Women's Day, but give us opportunity throughout the year. So we did fight, we did get our voice heard, we made sure that all of us got opportunities to speak on various issues.
And what was it like? I mean, response from Sumitra Mahajan on a question such as this, why should women get a chance to speak only on Women's Day?
No, she's a great leader. She's won 7-8 times from a constituency. So she understood women need to be supported. She did give all of us a chance, and she would formulate special programs for all the women legislatures, and she would call MLAs from all the other states as well. And we member of parliaments were in charge of running these programs also. So it was good, participative, and very happy. Always when a woman is there, she'll take care of the other women. That Sumitra Mahajanji had proved that time.
And do women in power, such as you, have a special connect with women workers, women cadres? Is there also that sense or comfort that you give to them that they can reach out to you at any hour in the day?
See, that is always there. Not only our party workers or party family, but then when we go out in general programs, it is women who come throng to me more than men, because women can come, touch you, ask you.
Yes.
So that there is a comfort level for the women voters actually. So women of this country will need more women leaders, because then they'll be openly able to share their issues and problems with women politicians and leaders more than with male politicians and leaders. That I've seen. Whichever village I go to, whichever program I go to, women come to me first. So there is an advantage right there that we see.
And Kavita ji, as someone, again, who understands issues, what role have you played in ensuring women feel safe in Telangana?
Lucky in Telangana, our Honorable Chief Minister, whichever program he has taken, he has put women in the first place. It is not just about safety, but when it comes to financial empowerment, when it comes to issues of making sure women are safe and secure in we put women in the front. For example, I'll start with a small one. If we have to give pension and we have to choose between a husband and a wife, Telangana government chooses the wife. If we are giving a double bedroom house, if we have to choose husband and wife, Telangana government always puts the property on the wife's name. And if there are shepherd community women who want the government's incentives and programs that we do, we always choose the women first. So not just in terms of lip service, like saying ki humne mahilaon ka raksha kar liya, this, that. No, but we also believe in empowering women, and we've generated so many programs in terms of empowering them industries-wise. I believe we are one of the first state to have the Women Industrial Park exclusively for women, and it is done with the FICCI. So they have identified a lot of women, we gave them incentives. There's one other industrial park that has come up. So we believe in financial empowerment of women also. Safety security has to go without saying. It should be like the air that we breathe. Women should not ask, please hamara dekhbhal karo. We are the citizen of this country, we are half of this country, and we should be protected by our governments. It's our responsibility.
And Telangana is heading towards becoming the first state of India to have its own legislation on cybercrime. How did you go through the entire process? What is the need for a legislation of this nature, and how significant milestone do you see it will be when it finally comes into force?
Currently, Telangana government is working with Nalsar University to come up with a law which addresses particularly about the cyber harassment issues that the women face. Not only just the cyber harassment, it also takes care of other things like cyber crimes, frauds, etc. also. But harassment is a major issue in that. Well, with the changing times, changing technology, as a government which is progressive and very aggressively pursuing IT and IT-related industries, there are a lot of opportunities for Telangana, but also there are equally challenges. So one of the challenges is the cyber harassment and cyber security issues that we face. So there are laws, IPC can address it, the IT policy 2000 can address it, but then if there are specific legislations with defined terms, then it becomes easy to train our policemen, it becomes easy to train our citizens, it becomes easy to train our companies, because across the globe, wherever you see, there are legislations, but the problem is there is not enough training given to the police force. But we've already done that even without a legislation. We have put together something called as the she teams. Yes. So if any woman has any issue, it could be cyberbullying or otherwise, they can just go there. So a woman knows in Telangana where to go if she has an issue. But in various advanced countries like US, when anybody is bullied online, if they go to a regular cop, they would not know what to do. These cops have not helped, and many bloggers, many writers have openly said it, that I've approached the cops 100 times with a visible threat on my website, but the police said, how do we even know this guy exists? Or how do we even know it is going to turn into a real crime? So these are the challenges. But then Telangana government had put together a task force on the ground. There is a special IT cyber crime cell which is put in place. An ACP is in charge of it, and there are 4 officers allocated to it. So there is an infrastructure set up in place. So women of Telangana, if they face any harassment, they know where to go. Either they can go to a she team or they can go to a cyber security. But when you bring in an additional legislation, it just gives more comfort for the police also to book a crime under certain section, and then the punishments also will be much more swifter. So that is the basic idea of getting a law specifically for cyber harassment issues.
While we understand that perhaps women in a city such as Hyderabad may be more aware of what is happening, what about B towns of Telangana, smaller areas, villages? What is the kind of response that you're getting? Are they still reaching out and securing their spaces, or is there a great degree of stigma that is attached to bullying?
No, absolutely. She teams today has become a household name. In every movie also, if somebody is bullying, they say in a Telugu movie that she teams wale aayenge, pakad ke le jayenge. So it has become a household name. Every district of Telangana has a separate she team set up. So many women know this, and not only just the she teams, we have set up a one-stop crime centers also, crime shelters also. If there is crime against women in the districts, it is set up directly in the government hospital. So they can go there, a lawyer will come there, SI will come there, her treatment will be done, and then she can securely stay there as well. So not only Hyderabad, we believe in addressing every nook and corner of Telangana, and we are empowering women across the state.
One statistic which was very very disturbing and worrying is, Kavita ji, that Telangana witnessed a surge in cases of phone harassment in 2020. What more can be done to help women?
Primarily, Mariaji, not only Hyderabad, this has been the case across the globe. Post-pandemic, big deal of harassment has started happening over the phones. And also, you should understand, I would like to share one number with you. The percentage of women who use phones in rural areas of India and in Telangana is very less compared to men. And even if they use phone, there is no access to internet. So now, post-pandemic, that has changed. So when the technology comes in, harassment also comes in along with it. Till date, only about, say, 35% of women have access to internet in rural India today. But then even those 35% get the harassment calls along with the internet. So now the real challenge with our government is how to face that as one, but yet how do we make sure that internet penetrates into rural India, rural Telangana? Because when internet can be a great enabler, and there are many, many studies which talk about if you can just bring around 600 million more women onto internet, how can the world GDP grow by 18 billion? And I believe very strongly as a woman, we have a very weird working curve, you know. By the time we get married, have children, we would be peaking in career, and once you have child, your career also goes down with that. But then technology, if we can educate our women in technology, they can work from home. So we really need to make sure that internet goes into the villages. Telangana government is working towards it. I mean, my dream personally is like today, a woman sitting in a village house rolling beedies, tomorrow I want her to be working on a laptop. You know, that is the kind of vision we have for Telangana. So we are working towards it. Digitally empowering the women and citizens of Telangana is our goal. And that is why we newly launched the ICT policy 2021-2026 for the next 5 years. It's a brilliant policy with a lot of impetus on making sure we digitally empower our citizens with a lot of security details in place.
Yes. So, ma'am, when you talk about this ICT policy, again, that will be about women feeling that they have an extra tool in their hands. But overall, that entire approach towards harassment continues to be in which women shy away from taking these issues up. Their first response is to just block these callers rather than report. And also the role of men, the stakeholders, the men in the homes, I mean, to have that comfort that women can have that conversation with their fathers and their brothers at home.
Don't you think it's a societal issue? Governments can make laws, but then they can't change the mindset. For society as a whole to change, I believe today, I'm a very optimistic person. I believe today there is a larger acceptance for women to go out and work. At least in Hyderabad, that is the case. There is a larger acceptance for women to work from home, larger acceptance for women to, because we've broken all kinds of records in Telangana. We have a first junior lineman who goes up the poles like men and fixes electric lines for you. We have the first mining engineer in Telangana who goes down along with other men, tills the coal and gets it out. So we've broken all kinds of barriers in Telangana. There is a larger acceptance today in our society, and there's an open-mindedness. Now, how do we take it to the next level? Definitely it is a challenge, but only governments making rigid laws won't help. Society as a whole, we have to work together. You are doing a great effort. Our government is doing a great effort. Together, I'm sure all of us can reach to that point, but it won't happen today, tomorrow. I'm not that optimistic, but then, yeah, we will. It's a work in progress. We will keep it at.
And this Truecaller News18 Network campaign, it's not okay. We are emphasizing on call it out.
Right.
Because it's not okay to just block, but to call it out. The collective responsibility, that sense that we should have, where the policymakers, along with the society, becomes responsible. What do you think should be done at various stages?
Well, this is where I believe more education for women is required, because if somebody starts calling you, start sending you texts that you don't want and unnecessarily harassing you, then as you rightly said, we cringe and then we immediately delete or block that post. But then that won't help a police officer to help us. That won't help a government or an NGO to help you. So it will be uncomfortable, but then I request all my sisters, if you get a message, if you get a call which you are not interested in, you save it. Take a screenshot, save the time, save the real-time links, make sure that you can present it to the authorities one day when you want to report. Unless and until you want to report, nobody else can help you. But don't lose hope. Today in Telangana, if you report, you'll get the result very quickly. We have proven it in many, many cases where we have picked up boys who were eve-teasing the girls, counseled them, put some of them in the jails if required, left some of them with counseling. But there is a logical end to this issue. We can take it to the end. Our government can take it to the end. So if you get a message that you're not interested in, don't block it, don't delete it, save it, be smart, use the technology to save yourselves also. So please be educated, and I'm thankful to Network 18 for bringing this education to girls and women. I think more of this education has to go in as to how a process can be taken up so these perpetrators can be punished one day.
And what role do you think men will play in this entire journey? Because I think the emphasis on men as allies becomes important, isn't it, ma'am?
See, men won't give you control until and unless you take it from them. And they will not like us taking control. They will not want us to be on internet. They will not want us to be in the spaces where they ideally should be. So it's a what should I say now? It's a civilization issue, right? But then we can't give up. We are very, very tough people, women. We should not give up. We should continuously continue to claim our right on using internet. And of course, men, as I always request them, kindly speak for us. Because if you speak for us, then there will be more power. If you speak for us, we will have additional strength. Not that we are not strong enough, but we are going to surpass you one day, so you better join the band. Start supporting us immediately, because we are already getting to a place where we are doing very good and excellent in every possible field, and I'm sure we will excel in the digital field as well.
And you said it rightly, the digital space comes with its advantages and disadvantages. There is snooping that happens, there is cyberbullying, cybercrime. It is open with challenges.
True.
And do you think women tend to feel very, very vulnerable? And any anecdote that you would have to share with us about your experience or having a conversation with any of your karyakartas about it?
There are many experiences. Unfortunately, what happens as in regular crime, people who know you will bully you first, or people who know you will haunt you and harass you first, even on cyberspace. So that's an unfortunate trend that is happening. So if you get a harassment call, immediately think about your inner circle or close circle. Try and be very smart about who could this person be, how can we identify them. So that could be the beginning. Second thing, I always tell women, don't give up here, don't give up, don't lose hope. There will be systems. If you speak out, 100 people will come to support you. It has happened in many, many cases. People who approach me, people who approach any NGO, any government, governments are willing to help. It's only for you to speak up. And that courage nobody can give you. You have to yourself fight it out, get your problem out there, and there will be hundreds of people to help you out. I can give you the confidence. Telangana government is there, She Teams is there, our brilliant police department is there. So please, please, please speak out.
My last question to you, and this is about how, because you said you are privileged, you are speaking from a position of power and authority, how will you ensure that Telangana becomes a safer place for women?
Well, with power comes responsibility. No? Definitely we are there, responsible. We take responsibility for our women, for our children. We work day in, day out to make more friendlier policies. We are trying to create more and more avenues. For example, we have a specific Mahila police stations in most of the constituency headquarters that are set up. There are separate Mahila police station in the IT space, Gachibowli, where it is set up. There are she shuttles everywhere in town. So we're trying to make sure, it's just not lip service to say we want more and more women to come and work, but we want to enable them to come and work. We're supporting them in every which possible way, and we will continue to do so.
Your final thoughts?
Final thoughts, brilliant program, and if this is a countrywide program, I think it'll be amazing, and please focus more on rural areas. I believe more and more education is required there also, because bullying won't stop just in metros. It will go into the rural areas as well. As the phones grow, as the internet grows, it will also happen. So let us educate our women from now on, and please involve everybody. This is not a political issue. This is a societal issue. So each one of us need to speak out, and I'm happy you're taking this up.
And Pragya is right here. And Pragya, we have been discussing that idea of B towns of India. And that is where, while there is digital penetration, comes also roles of, apps such as yours, which is a Truecaller, where women in small towns of India, rural parts, as you said it rightly, should have that tool in their hands to take it up.
Absolutely. And this is where I was just speaking with Pragya of late. If somebody is harassing me on WhatsApp, these companies are not friendly. I cannot report it back to WhatsApp saying, block this person. So tech giants like Twitter, Facebook, WhatsApp, whichever social media is popular, they really need to understand and work for women as well. They need to put in special thoughts of how do we counter this. You know, many women journalists are harassed all the time. And how do you report it? What do you do? It's an ordeal. It's a big, huge process. And I don't want to look weak, but then I would like to need an option by all these tech giants to be given to women so that we can exercise it easily. And you were showing me the Truecaller app, which said, just with one click, I can say this can be done. I would like to have that on WhatsApp, Twitter, Facebook, everywhere I want to go, because I want my cyberspace to be more free, and I want to feel safe there. So I think tech giants also should start thinking about women and how they're harassed and how it can be countered. So the responsibility cannot be just on the governments, because there are certain cases in US where these tech giants were ordered to completely delete some of the private pictures of their databases completely. So that can be done as well. So it's a cooperation between giant technology companies and governments also. So I think the next step should be that. We should be not only talking to governments, but also bring these companies in, ask them how friendly are they going to make their apps to women.
Thank you so much for your time. Pleasure speaking to you. And thank you for sharing all the insights, ma'am.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much. May I now invite Mr. Manincha, Director of Marketing at Truecaller, to present ma'am with a token of appreciation. Thank you, Maria. Thank you, Mr. Manan. Telangana is a state that has been putting up a strong fight against harassment through multiple initiatives. And one such initiative is the She Teams that Kavitaji was also talking about by Telangana Police. You wouldn't want to mess with anyone, let alone a woman, after watching this. Please take a look.
In today's society, absence of fear of punishment has led to the perpetuation of crimes ranging from eve-teasing, stalking, sexual harassment to cyber crimes against women. What appears to be meaningless fun for the perpetrators causes insecurity, trauma, besides hampering the progress and psyche of the nation as a whole. And as an answer to this,
మహిళల రక్షణ చాలా టాప్ ప్రయారిటీ తీసుకొని ఈవ్ టీచింగ్ గాని మహిళల మీద జరిగేటువంటి నేరాలు గాని అడికట్టడానికి షీ టీమ్స్ కోసం ఆలోచన చేసి ఆ షీ టీమ్స్ అంతా డిజైన్ చేసి పెట్టినారు.
She Teams were launched on the 24th of October 2014 in the city of Hyderabad and is a sensitive translation of Telangana state government's vision for a safe and secure environment for women.
Harassment to women in public places has become a major concern to one and all. The main purpose of establishing She Teams is to nip the problem in the bud and prevent crime.
Specially trained and dedicated teams are put in place after identifying problem areas that includes both hot spots and hot timings, where innocent women become victims of sexual harassment and other crimes. In a break from routine policing, police personnel in civil dress observe the movements of the offenders before catching them red-handed. Discreet or secret cameras record their behavior so that it can be used as an evidence while producing them in the court. Depending on the nature and gravity of the case, different sections are booked against them as per the law. She Teams also nabs offenders who harass women through phone calls, messages, emails, social media platforms, and those who indulge in cybercrime against women. Leveraging technology for averting and detecting such crimes has been a part of She Teams. Misguided youth who have been caught by the She Teams are professionally counseled, along with their parents, to become responsible citizens. Adhering to professionalism, She Teams maintain confidentiality of the victims, which inculcates a sense of security and gives confidence to victims to approach the authorities freely. She Teams simultaneously conducts awareness campaigns in colleges and public places. Mega events are also held to create legal awareness programs and teach self-defense techniques. Digital displays, posters, short films, runs, bikeathons, and rallies are constantly creating awareness among the public. Women are encouraged to approach the She Teams regarding any kind of harassment that they face. Apart from dial 100, which is the emergency number, social media like Facebook, WhatsApp, email, Twitter, and also the award-winning and the famous mobile app, Hawkeye, are used by the victims to approach She Teams. With a concrete plan of action, trained workforce, and aggressive media campaigns, She Teams have made remarkable progressions, succeeding in creating fear in the minds of the offenders. And instilling confidence in women.
In Telangana, in any part of the state, we shall not tolerate any crime against women.
She Teams, the armor of women.
As we wage a war against women harassment, it is important to recognize the pivotal role that men can play in the field. It's now time for a panel discussion on expanding boundaries of communication. Let's discuss harassment and role of men as allies. May I now invite senior journalist Swapna to moderate this session for us. Swapna.
Very good afternoon to everybody. Thank you for this wonderful introduction. Too often, talking about harassment is seen as a social taboo, or we perhaps postpone escalating the matter because we are too busy, or somewhere we lack the faith that something will be done. But it's now time to speak up, and this is an initiative to bring about this awareness with Truecaller as a backdrop. Harassment has been normalized time and again, and I'd like to share that I've been in the media for almost 2 decades now, but I have faced harassment despite having all the access to all the departments and knowing very well that I have access to television and I can broadcast anything that goes wrong. I still have been harassed. And I know a lot of my friends who have been harassed. And I have escalated various kinds of harassment to the police department and found that that is the only way that we can call out and stand up for ourselves. But it's now time to take it to the next level and invite men to join this campaign against women harassment. And I'd like to invite our esteemed panel today to carry forward this conversation. Firstly, C.V. Anand, Commissioner of Police, Hyderabad. We have with us Hyderabad's dynamic officer, C.V. Anand. Mr. Anand had earlier served as the Commissioner of Cyberabad. Welcome, sir. Please have a seat. And he has also held various posts in Hyderabad, including Deputy Commissioner of Police. As IPS officer, Mr. C.V. Anand spent the first 10 years of his service in the Maoist-affected districts of Warangal, Adilabad, and Nizamabad, and he was decorated with the President's Gallantry Medal in 2002. Thank you, sir, for being here. I now invite ace badminton player Parupalli Kashyap, a former world number 6. He was awarded the Arjuna Award by the Government of India in 2012. Welcome, sir. Please have a seat. He created history by reaching the quarterfinals of men's singles in the 2012 London Olympics, becoming the first male player from India to do so. At the 2014 Glasgow Commonwealth Games, he won the gold medal in men's singles. Big round of applause for Parupalli Kashyap. Thank you for joining us. I now invite Mr. J. Srinivas Rao, Chairman, Telangana State Commission for the Protection of Child Rights, to please come on to join our panel. J. Srinivas Rao is the Chairman of the Telangana State Commission for Protection of Child Rights, which emphasizes and recognizes the tone of urgency in all child-related policies of the country. And the Commission works for the protection of all children in the 0 to 18 age group and defines priority actions for the most vulnerable target groups. And for the Commission, all the rights of children are of equal importance. Thank you, sir, for coming. I now invite Yelamati Arun Daniel Kumar, founder and director of Youngistan Foundation. Arun Daniel Kumar is a young social worker, entrepreneur, and journalist. He is the founder of Youngistan Foundation, an NGO based in Hyderabad, which works to improve the lives of the most underprivileged and disadvantaged people through programs that address hunger, homelessness, poverty, education, inequity, gender inequality, various taboos on issues like menstruation, emergency responses, animal rights, and it goes on. And Youngistan Foundation has engaged with more than 50,000 young people and provided them with a platform to connect with other socially aware individuals and effect real change in communities. Thank you very much for joining us today. So, I'd like to start with our Commissioner. Sir, so can we very briefly, first of all, define what harassment is?
Women harassment. Anything which, I would say from my experience, anything which disturbs a lady, whether it is either visual or by touch, physical, or any other by signs or any symbols, I think that should constitute harassment. Anything which she's not comfortable with, anything she's not saying okay, then I think that constitutes. It's a very broad definition, but that's what I feel. I mean, anything a lady is not okay with.
Right. Sir, if and when a woman faces harassment, now this is a very big question, on the phone, online, offline, what are the immediate steps she can take to report it?
Fortunately, the number of avenues to complain have been expanded by the police, and especially in Telangana, we have given a lot of options. The dial 100 is the first option. We have really increased its scope, its the variety, and the response time. Right. So that is the easiest one to remember, and now we have patrol cars and blue coals in every nook and corner of this greater Hyderabad area and in the entire Telangana state. A lot of investment has gone into that, a lot of training, and the response is really quick. Apart from that, we have social media, WhatsApp numbers, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. We have all these options open for women to complain. Not only that, there's a special app called the Hawkeye. Right. It has special features, are very easy to access and very easy to complain. It goes right into the control center, command center, and from there the response and the evidence-based policing. So there are several options, and one just needs to recognize and use it whenever the situation arises.
Sir, before I move to the other panelists, I have one very pertinent question. Despite all these methods to escalate such issues, it is a fact that harassment still goes on. So would you say that people are not yet tuned into how to use and access help? Or would you say that the end result of such complaints is perhaps not being made known enough to the people?
It is, I think, double-edged. First of all, our society is such that women are brought up in a manner where they're not supposed to complain. You know, it just only of late it has been changing. But generally, even if we have seen so many cases where a child goes and complains, and mother says, just don't complain, don't tell anyone else. In fact, there's a recent case, very disturbing, where the father was the perpetrator, and the girl was pregnant, and she was not able to complain to anyone because the mother was not allowing her to. So that being the situation, I would also admit that the awareness about how to go about it, the general fear of that police may not respond, they may ask embarrassing questions, and say a few things which are uncomfortable, and that's so a lot of training has been done with the policemen and police officers to sensitize them to this issue, and really respond in a very a manner in which the complainant feels comfortable. The SHE teams are one such way where they really have the awareness sessions which have gone on. There a lot of effort has been put in the last 6-7 years, and it has really helped. So we see a huge surge in complaints.
Right.
I always tell my officers, don't get scared with the number of FIRs being increased. That is not the way to look at either crime against women or against in the cyber world also of late. The number of complaints increasing is a good sign that people are coming. It's not that the harassment was not there in the past. It was always there. It was not being allowed to come out. Right. The fact that number of complaints are increasing, FIRs are increasing, the cases are increasing is a very good sign, and we all need to look at it like that. In fact, the media also, I would appeal, whenever we show an increase in FIR, they say crime against women has increased. It has not. It is just being reported.
It's being
that
reported,
is the attitudinal change we require.
It's being reported more than it was to,
yes.
It used to be earlier. Well, sir, we've set a stage now. So Parupalli Kashyap, when we speak of women in sports, there is an automatic aura that they are not harassed. I mean, there is an assumption that they're very powerful because they're sporty and they can stand up for themselves. So would you say in the field of sports, women get harassed?
Well, they do. But like you said, the first part of your question, like you said, the women who have actually performed and excelled, they have faced this and they have overcome it by their own ways, different ways. A couple of examples is my wife, Saina, and her colleagues. I have seen since childhood that, at coaching level, different coaches we meet, different ways of harassment. It's not like sir mentioned, Anand sir mentioned, it can be any way possible. The definition of harassment, something which is disturbing you, or something you feel is not right, and so they have found their own ways before. There was no social media. Right. There was no social media. You couldn't even express yourself anywhere if you wanted to. And even if they have social media, I don't know if they could have expressed, because again, there's the fear of, letting yourself out, and, again, backlash also coming your way. So there is, I won't say there is no harassment in sport. There is, but I think an advantage with sports persons is the fact that you start competing very early in your career. Right. You face wins and losses so frequently that you you treat that also in such a way that you fight it. You end up fighting it. All the women athletes, whoever have excelled and whoever is playing, first thing they learn is that, you face wins and losses so quickly. Every week in, week out, or a month or two, you face it three to four times. And I think they become better individuals. They learn how to fight these situations, find solutions, basically. I wouldn't say just, performance by winning another match is only not the answer. Like a harassment in such a way, you try and find solutions, because you're always in a world where you're trying to find solutions to win your match. For everything, every problem, you deal with it in such a way that have to find a solution. So I encourage all the time. I feel sport just teaches so many things. So I always encourage, this is not the platform, but I would say encourage all the children to just learn some sport and, try and get to a competitive level. Even if it is like, say, school level, district level, you understand competition, you understand wins and losses, you understand highs and lows in mentality, and then how to overcome it. So I think sports that way teaches you, but still at even the elite level, it happens. It recently happened to Saina, so yeah.
Yeah, it builds a certain sense of confidence also in just being oriented with sports.
Yes.
So I want to ask you a direct question here. We are inviting men to be part of this campaign, which speaks against harassment of women. How often do men come and stand up for women in the field of sports? You yourself have, in your wife's case, but in most cases, do you have the support of, do women have the support of men?
I can speak for my cause. It's great that sir has spoken, and the way you have organized, the way they have organized this discussion is brilliant. I think they have to stand up more. I have not seen like so many examples of it, but it is getting better, I would say. That women are speaking for themselves still now. I don't see so many men standing up for them. But I think it will become a trend from now on, and I hope more and more men speak out and be in support of them. They can manage, like Kavita ma'am said, they are strong and they can manage it by themselves, but it's nothing like having a support of men as well. Yeah.
Absolutely. So I'll now move on to Mr. J. Srinivas Rao, Chairman of Telangana State Commission for the Protection of Child Rights. Sir, obviously, in a lot of sections of the society, this is a topic that is not discussed too often. But more and more access to digital India is also making the children more vulnerable to such incidents. So are you doing something directly to impact their level of education as to how to deal with such incidents?
First of all, I want to make everyone probably reflect and understand that the issue is not men supporting women. It is the responsibility of both the genders. I think let's be clear on that part. Because when I am being part of this kind of a panel, I think it is my moral responsibility, not just becoming a support. My mother is a woman, my sister is a woman, my wife is a woman, my friend is a woman. How can we probably think of a situation where men cannot be part of it? That statement itself reflects the level of insensitivity we live with. How do we come out of that? The so-called category of people sitting here in this hall today. We belong to a section where we are much, much, much ahead of the section of society who live in a village situation, who understand things so much. And our friend who is anchoring now, she said she herself has experienced harassments. It's very shameful and painful to know that. So, as a commission, what we are trying to do, predominantly there are three broader perspectives. One is, how do we first prevent? Prevention becomes critical. First of all, why that issue should happen? So how do we build in that perspective to our young generation, at least the generation, because as a commission, our age group already said is 0 to 18. If you take at least between 12 to 18 years, how do we build in that confidence in that category of children, whether in an urban school or a rural school or a school in a town, whichever situation, how do we build in that perspective, towards which we just recently I think very interesting, the Youngistan is here, we too, and UNICEF, and few other women and welfare department. We are trying to come up with a very important program called volunteerism. Volunteerism wherein the whole mechanism of using the best of the technology, we want to create a situation where anybody can connect to that kind of an app, which a child, preferably we are looking for age group of 12 to 18 only, not limiting to girls. It is girls, boys, anybody. They should be able to speak up, not just an harassment, their rights. Because as a commission, we want their concerns to be spelled out. We want their difficult times to be expressed. We want their painful situations with the neighborhood and the issue of harassment as one dimension, which is a focal point of discussion today, is one dimension among all that we are trying to do. So that's the kind of initiative we are considering. It should become everybody's subject, and each of us have a role to play. Do you want our child to be part of such initiatives? Do you want our child to take an active step? This is what every mother and father, every family should be thinking across the state. And family is the first unit, fundamentally. Because this the enough number of acts and laws and the machinery, police machinery, the top officer is with us here. And let him, even his expense speak the same. The machineries cannot stop all this. Unless there is a will to change, unless we get down to state of where we are able to sensitize the communities. The people, that's where, as an act, Juvenile Justice Act as an important component, that is village child protection committees. Why the issue should come up to district and state? Why a commission should listen to issue? It should be heard at village level. Why our village entities are not able to listen to it properly? Towards that, we already taken initiative. We are now in the process of building the capacities of sarpanches and the village entities which are around child protection. Our 12,500 plus panchayats across the state. We are working on that. That's another initiative. So how do we really build in a mechanism wherein it shouldn't happen first? That's the first thing to look at. Then, by whatever reason it's happening, it has happened, how do we address it? That's where I think our police role, and not only police, there are many entities. It's called District Child Protection Unit. Under JJ Act, there are different entities which are supposed to be working. And we have a 1098, the child who can take a phone and call. So that is an entity. Different entities are working, but ultimately each of us, all of us have to come together, and there's a lot of effort by international agencies and national agencies and local initiatives. So how do we converge and act together? So prevention part is critical. Then when it comes to response system, which we are trying to build in.
Sir, we will go through the response system once we deal with the issue first. Thank you so much for your perspective, sir. And as aptly, you said really aptly that it's part of responsibility of men. But sadly, I'm sure, Arun Daniel Kumar, you've dealt with a lot of young India. So we see several scenarios where girls are being harassed. There are some really lewd comments in the cyberspace, and there's nobody else coming and fending for them. Is that reasonable to expect at all?
Hi, I'm very happy that we are having a discussion with men as allies. I think there should be more and more conversations where men are involved, especially when we are addressing harassment for women, because they play a larger role in eradicating or addressing harassment towards women. Coming back to your question, I think there are quite a lot of, I think like Sir C.V. Anand sir was mentioning, there are quite a lot of avenues which are helping out online abuses or online issues that women are going through. And when people are responding to that, and when they're able to complain to those issues, they are being addressed. And I think in this generation that we are connected with, I see a lot of boys, young men are even being proactive in standing with women. If we see any posts online which are pulling down any women, I've personally seen a lot of people addressing to eradicate or stand against that comments, which is good. I think we need to focus on the good that is happening. I think when we start addressing and encouraging a lot of young people to continue to do the same, I think we will see a better and safer social media conversation happening within boys and girls, I hope.
Do you, as part of the work that you do, actively engage students and youngsters in developing this kind of a mindset?
Absolutely. In fact, we are doing a small project with the Women's Safety Wing called the Cyber Congress, where we are enabling close to 1650 school children and encouraging these children to become cyber ambassadors. So these children are trained to tackle any kind of harassment or online fraud or any sort of issues that people are facing. So these children become the on-ground warriors and ambassadors, let it be in communities, in schools, where they pitch in that gap to solve the issues right there and there. So apart from that, there are a lot of, we use arts as a big way to have conversations. So we have done concerts and stand-up comedies and slam poetries where we encouraged child pornography. We fought child pornography through conversation using arts. So we've been doing quite a lot of online, fighting online abuse and harassment towards women as well.
And now, moving back to you, sir. Sir, C.V. Anand, sir, in Telangana, I mean, I'm proud to be a Telanganaite because of the measures the government has taken, and thanks to other initiatives like what Network 18 and Truecaller are doing today to bring about a dialogue. So have you noticed a big change pre-COVID and post-COVID, sir, in the kind of harassment that happens? And also, with the initiatives that we have taken from the government, what changes and what results have you been able to publish and declare, saying that we have caught so many people and we have, this is the kind of implication, you know, because that's a message that needs to go out to the people.
Actually, COVID has changed a lot of things for, I think, the entire world. During COVID, as you know, all of us were stuck up and things became online, work from home, everyone was on the internet, children were having classes online. So naturally, when things are online, along with, it's a package deal, along with your knowledge also comes this type of harassment. So there has definitely been a quantum jump in the complaints we have received post-COVID or during COVID itself. People have been complaining online, they were not able to come to the police stations, and they have been complaining online. But now we have the physical presence and the complaints by coming physically to the police stations or to the officers has also increased. I'm seeing it daily in the office too. So there's been a substantial increase of knowledge amongst perpetrators, those who have these attitudes. They have learned newer ways of harassing people whom they don't like, women or girls whom they don't like, or who seem to be resisting. So they have discovered what the internet or the World Wide Web offers, all these apps, and they have also learned how to cover up their tracks, which was not there earlier. Earlier we were able to trace them more easily, but of late we are seeing them masking it up, using proxy IPs. Investigation has become more difficult. They've learned all these techniques. So this is the big change, big challenge for the investigation agencies, for the police department, and all other agencies taking care of this aspect of our society. About the work done, in fact, I would like to mention one initiative of Telangana government which is called the Bharosa. The Bharosa Center, if you go and see in the main center in Hyderabad city, it is something which for 30 years of service I also had been looking for. We have seen women come to police stations and stop coming to police stations also because of the experience they have to go through. Anyone they wanted to complain to would ask them questions. They had to make the complaint in presence of others. And once they complain, they don't know what happens after that. Then if there's a medical issue, the treatment, taking them to a hospital in front of others, being treated. All these issues we're seeing, and we never understood how it would be solved. But with Bharosa, it is all under one roof. The complainant comes, it is heard, and then the entire investigation is started. The medical treatment is done there. The prosecution is done there. All the case diaries are written. Even the court is adjacent. Child-friendly courts, POCSO Act cases. We have got so many convictions in the last 5 years of its 6 years of its existence. There are almost 28 life convictions, and convictions of people between 25 and 30 years of jail sentences. There are about 43. So these were unheard of. This is the type of difference these Bharosa centers are making. Now the plans are on by the government to start it in each district, and with smaller ones at the police stations, which one for a division or so. And that's a great initiative. And it has been studied by so many other states in our city, by international agencies. And it's a one-stop place where this thing, harassment of women, and the way it deals with them, I mean, people can't open up immediately. It takes time, to complain about against one's own uncle, against one's own father. You will be shocked to know that 80% of the perpetrators are
people known
to them. And that is the biggest question before us.
And somehow, sir, adding on, because they are people known, girls are worried about the consequences. And identifiable crime of this nature, sir, is obviously can be solved better. But what about when you don't know the perpetrator and you don't know somebody who is making really bad comments in the social media space, or trying to get I have myself, for example, people have used my display picture to access other people in the media and claiming to be me, and somebody else has done that to them, claiming, to me, claiming to be them. And there have been various kinds of unimaginable routes through which these people are trying to get through. So how do you deal with it? I mean, at the face of it, it looks trivial. But then when you actually look at it, there is an organized thinking going on there.
Unfortunately, this is the flip side of all the social media, which we seem to be enjoying. Everyone has, taken to social media in a big way. But the flip side is you are exposing, the more you are on social media, you are going to expose yourself more. And as I said, the perpetrators have learned how to cover up the tracks. Investigation has become more difficult. So now we in the police department are improving our skills. Of late, we have learned how to go deeper into the investigation. And we are very determined that this shall not overtake us. And those people who are doing this will not go scot-free. They have to be brought to book. They will be brought to book. Only thing is we don't seem to be seeing the reaction from big tech giants like WhatsApp, Twitter. Some of them have different standards in their own countries. They say, no, this is not harassment.
Exactly.
While the lady complaining would be suffering, but they apply those standards and they don't give replies to us. They don't take down the posts. They don't react. But that is a very unfortunate thing. I think the government of India also has been, the government of Telangana has flagged it with the central government. I hope we can access that information more and do justice. On our side, definitely we have to work harder to overcome this difficulty which has come up of late.
But the most important thing, sir, as you rightly pointed, I mean, through all the things you said, is that we need to stand up and first call out harassment.
Yes.
And first
that is the
escalate
first
matter.
condition. I would appeal to all the women. There are several right-thinking men who would come out and support. But the complaint has to come from the woman, the girl child, the person who is getting affected. Because it takes time to come and complain against, because there are consequences, social, economic, so many consequences are there. People, in fact, the person supporting with the girl or the lady will not be supporting her. But I would appeal that the only way to solve this is to complain and to get the men punished. And we, on our side, need to encourage in every way. For instance, we posted the first SHO of a law and order police station in this commissioner is 174 years old. The first SHO ever, a lady, a woman officer, was posted recently. So we need to think right, give them the initiative, empower them, and ask them to do their work. That's the way forward.
Well, thank you, sir. That's really encouraging for this initiative that is to discuss this aspect of our society, which is so rampant now. So, Mr. J. Srinivas Rao, obviously, we are trying to bring about our own legislation here in Telangana. So, what changes would you actually like to see, sir, from what is existing, and where do you think the problem areas are when we talk of harassment of girls?
Basically, the experience of the commission, if you look at like harassment as a dimension, like you are right to talk about online dimension, is more in urban section. And definitely, I am not disagreeing to say that it's not reached to rural, but that's again still a section of society. So let's not limit to online, and let's count offline dimensions, wherein the learnings that we get very pertinently is whatever we say, whatever confidence that we try and pour in. I have seen in number of cases where personally a mother is worried, what about my daughter tomorrow? What assurance you put in does not hold any value to me. That is a serious issue. I will not be able to, I can empathize, sympathize, and tell 100 things. But my child's identity, somewhere, even if you say 1,000 ways to convince them that it will be secretive, it will be this, that, but this rural situation, people come to know, somehow or the other. Once a child is branded for whatever the negativism, the society has not changed to that extent where they appreciate the boldness to come up and speak. They will always find fault with the girl.
Very true, sir.
Very true. So it is so difficult, easy to say, difficult to do. And with all that, we had to be positive, definitely. We should be looking at a situation where slowly acceptance is gained in the society that anything that goes wrong with a girl child for the mistake of a boy or man or a woman, I mean, I'm trying to put the age as a factor, should not be looked at as the mistake of the child who has been affected. So when does the society would begin to look at it that way? Okay, you and me probably are ready. How many of us in this state or in this country are ready for it? So these are $1,000 questions which are definitely not being answered. However, that the society is progressing. So whatever we call progressing, and that's also I have a comment. Are we progressing in physical terms of buildings and roads and technologies? Or are we progressing in our value terms of taking care of our own family respectfully and neighborhood respectfully? What is that as institutions we are able to build in?
Very true, sir.
This is a big question. We are, unfortunately, the so-called educated sitting here, our definition of development is a big building. We are in a developed place today sitting. Is it development? It is in its own form, but it is not the development fullest form. And that part of it, how do we build in the sensitivity towards the dimensions of a man and woman and the values, the cultural barriers that we are able to look at. That's all. That's important.
There is, obviously, that covers the social taboo aspect that we spoke about at the beginning, sir. There is a lot of hesitation when girls come to escalate their problems. So I'll move to you, Marupalli Kashyap. So how can we create a safer environment for our girls, especially in the field of sports, where a lot of parents hesitate to send their girls out there because they're not sure of the kind of norms or boundaries laid out there. So how can we create a safer environment?
the academy I was training in since 2005, um, this topic is not even being spoken of. So it's like I've heard everyone, mainly I think the issue, especially in sport, would be the online issue, you know, because performances up and down nowadays. I can see even Saina seeing social media posts and different other players seeing social media posts and feeling bad, looking at comments where, you know, when the performance goes down, feeling bad, or feeling, you know, the coach is putting too much pressure, or there's too much pressure from the family. It can be, like Sir said, it will be from people whom you know for the last 5-6 years. So I think academies, especially ours, there should be awareness. The coaches, the players, they have to speak to all the kids coming in that any issue, anything you feel, you'll have to come and discuss and open up and talk about it, because it's very tough in an academy with 200 kids, 300 kids to realize what is happening with each kid. If sports academies are the main place we are looking at. So there should be a counseling session that the coach is, you know, discussing with everyone, especially all the kids, be it the boys or the girls. They have to be made aware that, you know, anything like this which they feel, be it online or offline, in the academy, outside, whenever they are socializing with other friends or other parents, or, you know, it happens. It was not spoken of before, but now I think people have to be made aware. The kids have to be made aware. Everyone's smart nowadays. Even 10-year-olds have phones. They're all on Instagram. They're all on Twitter. I can't relate to it much. I'm a little old school. I'm the senior most in our academy, so even I am not so active online, which our management company keeps complaining that I am not. But I can't understand it. But I can relate to the current generation who are quite easy with it. I would say expressing their wins and losses quite easily, and also quite easy with looking at comments which they don't like. They're either quickly deleting it, or you know, some people react to it and they're fine, they're in their comfort zone. But everyone is not like that, and especially kids growing up, you don't know who's going to take a particular comment or a particular behavior from your colleague or your coach, or some of the junior coaches who are not educated in this field. How are they taking it? You don't know. So a counseling session is clearly a necessity. I think International Olympic Committee has done something with this, with harassment, specifically with women athletes. But I think it's very tough to reach them. As a beginner who's starting at the academy, he doesn't know anything about, or she doesn't know anything about International Olympic Committee. So the academies have to put, at least the big academies need a simple counseling center, a counseling session, and awareness that, you know, anything you feel, because like you said, they're leaving their parents, the academy is almost 50-60% outsiders coming from different states and cities and training there. So, and the coach can't look at every single kid and understand him mentally. It's very, very tough. So general awareness session should happen, and I think, you know, I'll surely sit with Gopi sir and, you know, discuss this topic. It's very important. It's extremely important. Yeah.
And it's also important to perhaps let people know the measures being taken, because that's the assurance we are looking at today.
Because the old school, especially my coach and coaches, will say we didn't have phones, we were not so busy. You can't get that discussion right now with the current generation. You can't say we didn't have phones. Well, what can they do about it? They won't even understand. Actually, they'll back off from this conversation, because they can't even connect to it. So now they have phones. Now how are you going to sort the situation out? They'll have to be aware that how do you manage it. Obviously the old school coaches and everyone, they won't have solutions also to it, because not having a phone is not a solution. You'll have to get the younger generation
to have the phone and know how to deal with it.
Yes, exactly.
Absolutely. Yeah. So Arun Daniel, before we conclude this session, one of the most common responses is to ignore, or, you know, duck your way out, or just, you know, think that he is a loser. The guy who's harassing you is a loser, so you're not at fault. But however, we are urging people to call out harassment and escalate the matter, not just to save yourself, but also to bring about a certain sense of discipline in the society as well, because it's a part of our responsibility. What would you say, does Youngistan Foundation actively counsel, coach parents and youngsters as to how to draw your boundaries and how to call out when something is not right?
I think it's very important to call out harassment that is happening to you, not only because we are like a lot of people here were mentioning, we are worried about the stigma of what people will think about me. In fact, quite a lot of harassment that we have been noticing on dating apps also, and people are not able to fight it out. But I think when you start speaking about what is happening to you, you become an ambassador for harassment itself, and it'll motivate people around who hear your story to come and speak about what is happening to them. In fact, we have been, our gender program started off with an initiative that we got to know, but this was a little bit of on ground and online, but the amount of effort that went into this person coming and sharing the story to us on how this one person wanted to go to college and was not going to college because of the fear of this one person teasing her every day in a bus. So she would not want to go to college because of that. And the only time she would go to college is because there was this one lady who would escort her, who looked after her, and that was the only time she would go to school or college. And it broke my heart. I was thinking, so many people out there, so many women out there, so many children out there do not achieve their dreams, do not become what they want to be because of the fear of what is going to happen to them. And I think it's very important that we need to start calling out harassment. If you do not do that, you are actually letting the person who is harassing, giving another opportunity for that person to harass somebody else. We have to cut the fault right there and there. And we've been working very hard to work, we've been working with police, we've been working with quite a lot of cyber experts, we've been working with different agencies to see how we can eradicate that and work towards that. And also we've been working a lot with young men. We want to work, in fact, we have a fellowship program called under our gender program, where we are training young boys to be allies so that these people go back on ground and work with community schools and fight harassment and also enable the community on safety. So it's very important, please do call out harassment, because that is the only way where you're going to save the lives of others in future.
Very rightly said, Arun. And Siviyanand sir, obviously, we have a saying in Telugu, Samadana Bheda Dandopayalu. So it just is to say that you have various ways of tackling an issue. So obviously the proof is when we actually go to the police station. So when we escalate a complaint that somebody is harassing us, what happens exactly back end? Can you let our people know, because it will give them a lot of assurance that something is happening?
Yeah, actually, if someone comes to a law and order police station, the person will not be the only complainant. There will be several other petitioners and all standing there. So the first sight itself makes the complainant a little scared. Then if the reception officer or the other police officer is not sensitized enough, then this complainant is made to sit down and ask to explain what type of harassment. That itself is very, very embarrassing. So what has been done to overcome this is, we have got, in every police station, we've got counseling rooms. If any such thing is there, the reception constable or the officer sitting there has to take them to the counseling room and speak to them in private, what exactly has happened. Because these are things which they cannot open up with. That is the first thing to be understood. These are the changes we are trying to make in the last 3-4 years, and a lot of progress has been made. That is the most important thing in going further ahead. What happens is if we don't rectify this, which we have done for several decades, then the complaint doesn't move further. The complainant woman or lady will think it's better not to give the complaint or not to pursue it, and there it ends. So after that, if the complainant is it is reduced to writing, then the she teams, if they are available on call and they are informed, we identify the hotspot areas, as you must have seen in the video. It's all done very secretly, unmarked vehicles and in total civil dresses and with secret cameras. One very big thing which has happened in Hyderabad city and greater Hyderabad and many parts of Telangana is this eve teasing has gone down because of this.
Yes, sir.
Most of the eve teasers, they now are not sure who is standing next to them.
It could be a she team's person.
It could be a she team. That is the best part of it. You know, someone lurking around watching near a pawn shop, there 5-6 guys are standing there planning to make lewd remarks about a woman passing by, or they see someone standing there. They are now sure that this must be a she team's guy or a woman in disguise. So that's the deterrence has been brought in. Then we have systems like I told in Bharosa, the entire thing is done under one roof. It is expedited, and charge sheets are laid very quickly nowadays. And then I assure the women folk and the girls that justice will be done. You know, there are very few officers left who are not of the old type. You know, just as Kashyap has said, we are not able to keep pace with the technology which is happening, which changes the rate at which it is changing. The police department, because it requires training of a huge generation of officers, you know, right down to the constable, home guard level. We have to tell everyone that this is the new way in which harassment will take place. You have to investigate like this. So the sensitization takes time. And while the technology is moving very fast, so, and the young kids are more into it. And we don't, it takes time for us to train ourselves, train our people to take cognizance of that and act accordingly. So just be patient, and the police department is on the right direction. The investigation agencies are on the right direction. We are seeing with the convictions which we are getting that courts, the criminal justice system is also responding. So awareness, I realized in this entire effort, creating awareness is also very, very important. So we have to go to the colleges, schools, talk to them, tell them what is a good touch, a bad touch, how to recognize these things, how to handle your social media handles, your accounts, how to have good safe passwords, IDs and such things. We need to go down and create awareness. That prevents a lot of harassment on social media. So I think we'll have better days in that.
Yes, sir, that's giving us a lot of hope. So Arun, Youngistan Foundation actually actively goes to colleges and does programs of this nature. Can you tell us a little bit about it?
I think one of the closest thing that we like to do is working with children and young people, because it says 60% of India population is still below the age of 35, and they have to be enabled and they have to be strengthened to fight harassment or cyber crimes or anything as such. So we have been doing quite a lot of awareness on child sexual abuse, harassment towards women. We do awareness on fake news. We do awareness on quite a lot of initiatives, and we use a lot of arts as to connect with them. We do a lot of competitions, skits, songwriting, and that is the only way these young people get to hear. But what is encouraging to see is a lot of young people are very passionate to be change makers. But they miss out on a platform. They do not have that platform where they want to go into the community and do things. And that's when organizations like us play a bigger role where we give them an opportunity to volunteer and they feel like heroes when they're on ground and impacting lives, touching lives of people. I think more and more these kind of opportunities needs to be given to the young people and children, so that, Srinivasa was telling how we are planning to come up with a volunteering program for the children so that they become an on-ground citizen to protect their own community. So these are some initiatives that we are trying to do, but coming back, these children and young people are going through a lot of things at home. I think pandemic has brought them down a lot. They have lost on education. They have seen a lot of internet crimes, abuses that we've seen with young people. And I think it's time, I want to reiterate, calling out, I want to encourage all the people who are watching, it's time for you to call out harassment, because it's a chance for you to become that hero. And they say every superhero has a story. You can become a superhero for somebody else's life and you share your story, because it's not okay to face harassment, and nobody should be facing that too.
Right, we have a lot of young audience here. So just before I speak with Mr. Srinivas Rao, can you raise your hands? How many of you have ever escalated harassment, or have ever complained to authorities or taken it further? Can you just raise your hands just for us to have an idea? So assuming that everybody is harassed at one point or the other, in their life on social media or
I'd like to know if anyone has never been harassed or felt like they were never harassed. Is there anyone here in the room? Oh.
Yeah. So looks like we don't have too many audience here who has actually escalated an issue, but that itself shows where we are. So we have a question here. Does anybody have a question for Mr. J. Srinivas Rao? You have a question, ma'am? The mic will come to you, ma'am. Please be seated, and once the mic comes to you, please stand up and ask your question. And please introduce yourself, ma'am.
I have a question to youngest son.
Yeah, please stand up, ma'am.
Give it, please. My question is to the youngest son NGO foundation, whatever you call, and other foundation like yours. Do you deal with counseling?
Mic closer, ma'am, please.
Do you deal with counseling the boys? Do you deal with the boys to call out? And this another question to Srinivas. So there are some housekeeping, the class 4 security force. Do they also get counseled? Are they bold enough to call out? First to you and then to Srinivas.
Thank you, ma'am, so much for that question. In fact, we had started a program 3 years ago exclusively for boys to in fact, the CSA awareness that we do, there is a special team that goes and speaks to boys only, because not many people, there's an assumption that boys don't get abused, they don't get harassed, but there is a lot of abuse and harassment that boys go through as well, and they do not have a platform to converse. And if anybody says, a boy got abused, they think it's a joke. Arey, how can you get abused? But we've done a special initiative for that. In fact, we go to colleges, schools, orphanages, communities, and have a special conversation with only boys, and encourage them to complain and also speak about harassment that they've gone through. Because I was one of the victims. I've been through harassment when I was very little, and I haven't shared that story to a lot of people with the fear of stigma and post. In fact, we have noticed a lot of young boys speaking up after the conversation. It's very important that we have more and more of those conversations with boys as well.
Yeah, but it's a very pertinent question you asked, ma'am, and thank you for answering that, Arun Daniel. But we have very little time left, sir. Sir, very briefly, in 30 seconds, can you just address what ma'am just asked you and close today's session, sir.
If I remember rightly what you asked me, I think you are talking especially about domestic workers. So, as it is, we did not have any specific program done for a particular category of people. But one thing is, which have gone a big way is through TSAT in Telangana, we are able to reach out to almost 2 lakh plus, or even 2.5 it is a target group, school children plus Anganwadi centers and the teachers. So that part we have been able to initiate in a large scale. And there are a lot of areas like the subject you raised in, that definitely one area who are very vulnerable, for sure. Right. Because this experience, while I was working in Delhi, I have seen that as part of a study. I was quite shocked to go through the facts, though it is not, it will not get into it at this point, but that's a very important area. Thank you, madam, for raising that. I think that section we need to look at as a commission, and probably many of us together even can work on it. But at this point, I want to share one important fact, authentic fact by National Family Health Survey. Just for everybody's knowledge, I think it gives a kind of a thinking for a moment.
Briefly, sir, if you don't mind.
Very briefly, just,
yes, thank you, sir.
Numbers only. So, 2021 NFHS survey conducted across 18 states, of which what broadly came in different states taking together, 83.8% of them say that men are justified to beat their wives. Say that men are justified to beat their wives. This is the opinion of the women. And similarly, the men surveyed and their opinions, 81.9% says that they are justified to beat their wives. This is the state, this is a recent study, National Family Health Survey conducted by Government of India and 2021 survey output, and is being conducted in 18 states.
Right, sir.
So I want you to know these facts and begin to think critically, and thank these two institutions, Truecaller and News18, to coming up with this. And this consciousness building effort at Taj Krishna should reach last village in our state and in the country, everywhere. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, sir. So I'll just very briefly sum up that we have started a very, very pertinent dialogue today here. And we are hoping that this dialogue, which News18 and Network and Truecaller have initiated, will bring about definitely a certain impact in changing the mindsets of people. So we are calling out harassment, and we are inviting men to participate in this crusade. And we have a lot of unknown gray areas which we have to steer our ways through, especially with all the laws that we have in place. But when it comes to implementation and calling out and taking the right action, proactive action, I think we still have a long way to go. But with the help of the police department, with the help of people like Mr. J. Srinivas Rao, and with people like you as ambassadors of the change, bringing about change, Parapalli Kashyap and Arun Daniel, I'd like to thank you all for being part of this dialogue today. And we have a very, very interesting panel coming up right after this. So thank you once again for joining in and participating today. Thank you very much. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, gentlemen. Could you please stay on the stage? May I now invite Mr. Manincha once again, Director of Marketing at Truecaller, to please felicitate our guests. Ratna and Manan. In the ever-evolving digital age, the Call It Out movement aims to make online spaces safer for women and empower them to take action against harassment. Let's take a look at the story of a young lady who faced the harassment but fought it.
I'm Satya Tharyan. I recently turned 28 years old. I'm from Mangalore. I'm a full-time content creator. I really enjoy making videos, interacting with people online. It's a lot of fun. I was really enjoying the space, and something happened where it suddenly made everything very sour. There was this one person who started messaging me. The way it started, it wasn't like it was odd or it was strange. So what changed was, I think a few days before Valentine's Day, when he started sending me messages like, I want to tell you something, ... These are the kind of messages that women encounter so much that it's almost become normalized now, and you just ignore it. And then he started sending me a lot of messages, and I restricted him. He would just keep sending emails one after the other. So I started ignoring it. I know that there are a lot of provisions to help women. I came across this National Cybercrime Portal and gave in all the information that I had, and it was very quick because I got an acknowledgement number, I got an email saying, your complaint has been registered, we'll look into it and all of that. And so I felt a little bit of relief that, okay, it's registered somewhere that this person is doing this to me. The day before my birthday, which is the day that he told me he was going to come to Mangalore to meet me, I remember I was just scrolling through social media and I saw his profile, and I see that he's put a picture in Mangalore standing outside my childhood school. And at that moment, I remember like my blood ran cold. I was so terrified that I just immediately called my parents.
I told her that we are with her at any cost, and I will protect her on any account.
It made me feel better knowing that my parents were calm, that they didn't panic, and they just also wanted to make sure that I was safe and I was calm. I made it very, very clear that I do not want to talk to you, I do not want to have anything to do with you. I've said no multiple times. And they say, right, no means no, but some people just don't seem to get it.
So it's a forced invitation. But I said, neither is not going to come here, nor you are going to meet that person. But we are going to arrest this kind of nonsense. And we have to do it in a legal way that society has provided.
And the next day, on my birthday, I went to the police station early in the morning with my father, gave them all the information. They went to apprehend him. I wanted his details to be on record so that in the future, if he ever tries to do something to me again, the police know exactly who he is, where he is, and they can track him. The police said, he will never contact you again. If he ever contacts you again, this petty case will be converted into an FIR. I felt a little bit relieved that, okay, at least he knows the severity of this matter. He's never going to contact me again. When you experience this kind of harassment, repeated, continuous, with people not being taken to task for it or not punished for it, you reach a point where you're like, enough. I will not tolerate this behavior anymore. I think I was operating from a place of pure just self-protection and self-defense, where I wanted to make sure that I would be safe, not just in this moment, but going forward in life. I don't want to have to constantly look back over my shoulder. The more you ignore it, the more the person becomes emboldened, and the more they're going to do to other people. The minute they are stopped and told that it's wrong and they actually have to face the consequences for their action, that's when not only are you empowered as a person, but you are stopping that cycle of them doing it to someone else. You have to call out behavior that makes you uncomfortable. You have to call it out because it's not okay. And you have to make sure that as an individual, you can do everything in your part to protect yourself, whatever it is, be it reporting, blocking, filing a complaint, talking to someone. But don't suffer in silence. You don't have to. There are laws, there are measures to keep you safe. and nobody can reach you once you have filed a complaint.
Well, when it comes to harassment, call it out because it's not okay. That's the key takeaway from this powerful story. Well, it's not hard to believe that more than 50% girls and young women on social media platforms have faced online harassment. The need of the hour is to make internet safer for women. Well, it's now time for a panel discussion on protecting women and girls from harassment in the digital age with Maria Shakil, Senior Political Editor, CNN News 18. May I have you on stage, please?
Invite the panelists straight. Swati Lakra, please come in on the stage, ma'am. Jayesh Ranjan, Upasana, and Pragya. Before I begin the discussion, I'll tell all the girls out there, I can see a lot of you. Please prepare some questions. We'll be opening the floor for questions and then the mic will be moving around for that. So in the next 45 minutes after we are done with this discussion, it opens up for all of you. Why is it important for all of us to have this conversation? Why is it important for us to say, call it out because it's not okay? And why is it important for us to have stakeholders right here to take this conversation forward? I'm going to find answers to the questions that I've just raised with the panelists that we have. We have Swati Lakra. She is the additional DGP in Telangana, someone who's the face of the SHE teams. So I'll be lauding you for that effort, ma'am. Thank you for your time. We have Jayesh Ranjan here, right next to me, Principal Secretary of the Industries and Commerce and Information Technology Department of Telangana. He is the one who is reinforcing the need for reforms, a very important area, particularly to do with cybersecurity laws. We also have Upasana, someone I follow on social media. She's very, very proactive in her space and is the founder of You Are Life, Vice Chairperson of CSR at Apollo Hospitals, a third-generation entrepreneur, and my favorite, Pragya, is right here with me for continuing with this discussion. She's the public affairs lead at Truecaller India. Upasana, beginning with you. As a woman who leads spaces, have you faced online and offline harassment?
Okay, so, you know, if you are in the public eye, people are curious to know about your life. And you should also be grateful for the appreciation that you've got being in the public eye. And I think it's more about curiosity. And they keep asking you so many questions and things like that. And sometimes you don't feel like answering them. And people take silence for an answer of their choice. And then, but they don't understand that while they make comments, it could have a very, very painful effect on yourself. So it started when I came into the public eye. I'm not from this background, and that's what happened with my marriage. And it went on about my personal appearances. I mean, I took it in a very positive way because I said, if you don't like me, that means you adore my husband, which is good for his career. So that was the way I looked at that. And then after that, it went on and on and on. And continuously people said, oh, you don't know the Telugu language. Now they're asking, oh, you've been married 10 years, you don't have kids. I don't want to talk about it. It's my personal choice. And absolutely nothing is wrong with me. And you know,
Yes, so when did this line, or thin line, I would say, between curiosity and what is evident pestering and uncomfortable entry into your private space, when did you realize it?
So I realized it very early, but I also realized that it's important for all of us to develop a thick skin. And I think that is, and be strong in your mind. Because if you are strong, you can do a lot. And the first thing you can do is definitely block. I think social media has lots of tools, and don't let it sink into you. Because once you know your life purpose, you just have to continue with what you're doing. And I think that's where, you know, I have learned to deal with it. This is my personal story. Other people can have different ones, but in my personal story, I was able to overcome it because I have today developed a thick skin.
Okay, so not everybody gets, you know, has that ability to perhaps condition their mind to develop that thick skin. I think it is also to do with the backgrounds that we come from, and then you face that kind of resistance as well from several quarters. Ma'am, Cyber for Her, that is Cyber Her, which is a very distinctive initiative of Telangana government. When did you think about it and what made you begin it?
So basically during the pandemic, everyone was in the cyberspace. Everyone was using internet. And that was when we felt that we should do some kind of a survey to find out how really people are coping with the isolation and whether they know the dangers of being in the cyberspace in the first place. So we did a survey, we called it Youngster Conscious, especially for the youngsters. And you know, everyone participated, women also participated. And we came to know that many people didn't know a lot about, you know, what the dangers are in being in the cyberspace. So we started a month-long campaign called Cyber. That was way back in July 2020. And it was a very systematically made program in which we roped in the cyber experts, etc. And it was mostly done online through the social media pages, etc. And we were able to reach out to almost 50 lakh people throughout the country, in fact, not only in Telangana, because it was online. And many of them, in fact, the students, the parents also appreciated that. And therefore, during 2021, again, we started a week-long program, especially for students. And we did it for the students of Hyderabad mostly. And that was also a huge success, actually. During the International Women's Day, we did that. And there was a lot of demand that it should be extended to all schools. And that is where the Cyber Congress came into picture. And we then roped in the education department, the cyber experts, certain NGOs, and of course, through the Women's Safety Wing Telangana Police, we did all the monitoring through our SHE teams. And if you want to know about, you know...
Yes, I'm just curious about the timing, because you said that everybody was home, and rightly so. And what was the nature of findings?
Mainly, we've found that people are using their mobiles as the main gadget for, being in the cyberspace. And many of the people didn't know how to ensure the privacy settings. They didn't know how to use a strong password. So basics also they did not know. And mostly it was a very casual attitude. That is what we felt, that anybody could, even if they are using their social media pages, they didn't bother to ensure that it was private, that the settings were on a private mode. So these are the things which we found, and especially from the youngsters. So this prompted us to ensure that, we do some awareness campaign for cyber safety.
I'm going to come back to you after taking opening comments from other panelists as well. Mr. Ranjan, from SHE teams to Cyber to Dil Se, several things have come up in your state, and I'm told that you are the brain behind most of it.
So, I mean, that's an exaggeration, Maria, but before telling you the facts, can I quickly comment on two other things? So one, of course, is to thank Truecaller and News18 for starting this campaign throughout the country, for bringing it to Hyderabad, to Telangana. It's a very, very timely and a very needed kind of initiative. So congratulations to all of you. The other point is I want to kind of add something to what Upasana told about curiosity. So that is fine. I mean, everyone is curious about so many things, but let me share one statistic, a piece of statistic. 3% of the world population suffers disorder. And just 2 days ago, some of you would be aware about it, a gunman fired in a shopping mall in New York State. And because of the kind of racist beliefs and the racist ideology that he subscribes to, and he killed 10 shoppers, innocent shoppers. And of course, this is not a stray accident. In the US, so many shootouts, and rest of the world also. And obviously the person who was there was mentally deranged. So again, as I said, while as long as there is some healthy curiosity, or even if it is unwarranted, to that extent one can still manage. But what about the people who are, so for instance, we saw this video of the YouTube content creator who is being stalked. So obviously the person who is doing that is obviously something is wrong with him. So I guess the role of the technology would be that how can you forewarn such people? How can you pick out such people? Are there some signals that their digital footprint is giving? So I've been reading about this particular gunman who shot 10 people in New York, and it has been reported that for more than a year now, he has been posting some very, very dangerous kind of Facebook posts and other kind of social media messages. So how can we make our technology so sophisticated that we pull out all such kind of deviant behaviors on the net and presume that someone who is showing so much of deviancy in his digital world at some point in time or the other is going to be a real threat to people out there, to real people out there. So I guess this is the evolution of technology that we require. And to come back to the question, the answer is no. I mean, I can't take claim of initiating any of these programs, but of course these are very good programs. And one amazing thing about our state is that there are no silos in the government. So everyone kind of collaborates, works together with each other, and many such programs have been initiated. And we also see lots of value in catching them young, telling them at a very impressionable age about the perils of the digital world. While it is important in today's time that digitalization is going to give you a push in your business, in your studies, whatever you do, for your recreation. For instance, the girl who was portrayed there, if she was not digitally active, she wouldn't have become a YouTube creator and all that, content creator. But obviously recognize the adverse consequences of digital world, the internet, and awareness is one, but also taking action, some concrete action against it is also very much required.
So that online abuse that you're talking about, and also how do you forewarn an individual? If there is a pattern that has emerged of an individual, you know, the kind of post that one puts is very reflective of what one is thinking, then how do you forewarn? The idea of forewarning.
Yeah, so it's like this. So I also receive lots of friends requests on Facebook and on some of these other Insta, etc. So I have seen many cases where someone is not really putting his real picture, real photograph. He'll put the photograph of a film actress or someone. So that is a very early sign that this man has some kind of an obsession with that. I'm not saying that anyone who puts a picture of a film actress is a person who can be considered dangerous, etc. I mean, healthy appreciation of artists and all is always okay. But suppose he crosses that limit, you notice something else happening. And there are lots of technologies today which can pick such threads. So you work for Truecaller. We have seen in the video again what kind of responsibility that you feel should be exercised by these platforms, etc. So I guess this is one such thing. See, right now also you may be aware, I'm sure you will be aware, that lots of discussion is going on at the level of the national government. In Telangana, we ourselves are thinking of introducing a state-specific cyber law in which certain responsibilities are going to be cast upon the platforms, the digital intermediaries as they are called. But the focus is more from terror or anti-national, sedition, those kind of perspectives. But this is equally important. See, if fortunately she had support, she is educated, she understood the need to approach the police, and the Mangalore police obviously also responded, calmed her down. But imagine someone who lives in a different kind of world, who is not so aware about how to really handle these kind of challenges. One's life can also be ruined. So this is equally, it is as bad equally in terms of the impact on the society as could be a terrorism plot or some sedition thing, etc., etc. So I guess it is everyone's responsibility to prevent such things. Technology emerges, technology is available. The other issue which is very much required is some kind of collaboration between these platforms. So I may put a Facebook post. Now, if Insta says that I have nothing to do with Facebook, I belong to a different company. If Twitter says that I'm a third entity, now I belong to a different person altogether who has strange ideas about free speech. He wants untrammeled free speech. So how do you really create that kind of a bridge across the platforms as well?
Yes. So it is about abuse and misuse of technology and online spaces, but multi-pronged strategy. And the role of various platforms, particularly tech giants such as yours. Pragya, it cannot be just about, I know you were with WhatsApp before you moved to Truecaller, but WhatsApp, say a Facebook or others cannot just say that ये हमारे साथ नहीं हो रहा, आप उनके पास जाइए. How do you look at these collaborations?
No, I think, everyone's raised really important points here, and I think I just want to start off by saying that, the issue of women's safety is something which is really close to our heart, and it percolates all the way from our founders who believe that, our mission is to actually build trust in communication by making sure that it's safe and efficient. And this is particularly important, and which is why we've been doing this campaign for the last 5 years. Of course, we've upped the ante this year, and, we have we launched on the 29th of March. We did our first on-ground event in Delhi, a national-wide campaign, and now we thought it's very important to, go deeper and bring it to states. And which other state but Telangana, because, you're sort of front runners when it comes to technology, innovation, research, and even regulating technology platforms. And I think we generally welcome regulation, because there must be balance. If there is an opportunity for us to express ourselves on social platforms, there should also be a way to make sure that others are not getting, I would say, harmed in any way. To your point, Upasana ji, that you said about developing a thick skin, I think what we are trying to do, just beyond what we can do on our platform, is actually go out and do a bunch of online trainings, do it in 5 states and 5 regions, and go to schools, colleges, even corporates, go to police officers, local administration, and talk about the rules of the road. What is the digital etiquette that folks must be following? Because, as Swati ji was mentioning, many more people have started using the cell phone, because that was really our primary mode of communication during the lockdown. We were talking to friends and family, but we didn't really understand what is the right way to keep ourselves, protected. What is that sort of kavach that you need, that safety that you need, in order to make sure that while you communicate with your friends and family, you're also not opening yourself to scams and frauds and, a lot of spam communication as well. And one of the key initiatives that we rolled out during this time was actually with the Ministry of Home at the center, where, I'm sure we all faced oxygen concentrator calls and remdesivir and Fabiflu, and people posing to actually supply all of this to you. And when you actually in that desperate situation transferred significant amounts of money, they pretty much disappeared. And so a lot of these people went out and filed FIRs. And what we did is worked with the Ministry of Home and marked a number of these numbers as COVID fraud on our platform. So when they picked up the phone and tried to call their next victim, they had a lot more context. They knew that this was somebody who was committing fraud. And so you chose not to take that call. And I feel, therefore, Truecaller is playing a pretty significant role, not just in women's safety, but more largely around safety in digital communication, and specifically around women. We have about 50% of our user base in India using Truecaller, and they use it as their first line of defense. And that's because when you have context and you know who's calling you, you have the ability to, of course, block them when you're talking to them. But when you block them, everyone else in the community gets more context that, hey, watch out, this is not somebody you should be speaking or picking up the phone on. But what we've done this year with Call It Out is actually take a step forward and say, please go ahead and report it to the authorities, because that is the only way you're going to be able to minimize harassment in society. And that's what is really critical. And we went ahead and also pinned these numbers on our quick dial option on our app, so that when you're in a vulnerable situation, and I'm sure Swati ji has seen many victims talk about their story, you're very nervous, you're anxious, you don't know where to go. And these are the ways where Truecaller wants to make sure that we empower you in that moment to be able to reach out to authorities and get help.
Yes, so Swati ji, take that discussion forward. Again, the Cyber Congress that you were talking about. You moved beyond the initial stage. And what were the kind of anecdotal evidence that you collected?
See, basically, when we did cyber, and we started Cyber Congress because we wanted to reach out to the rural students also. And we tried to reach out to the rural students, and we wanted them to become cyber ambassadors, not only in the school and in their classrooms, but also in their community. So there were a lot of times, and in fact, let me just tell you a few things about Cyber Congress also. We roped in very good cyber safety experts, and initially we were conducting it in English, but we felt that the rural students, they wanted it to be in the vernacular language. So we ensured that the cyber experts, cyber safety experts were from the Telugu background, and there were very good, classes happening. Totally in each district, we located 50 schools, and each school had 2 students and 1 teacher. So totally we are, and this is a 10 months program, which is now coming to an end. Just this July, it will come to an end. So 3,300 students, along with 1,650 teachers and the cyber experts. And we have about, 5 sessions for each student in the 10 months program, including, they also will have some sessions on activities, some sessions to recapitulate what they have learned. So there have been times when they have gone into their community and they have started talking about cyber safety, and the parents and the concerned neighbors, they have been extremely excited about these young children trying to speak about cyber safety. And in fact, from the center also, one of our students from the Cyber Congress was selected as the achievers, as a young student achiever. And that was a huge encouragement for all the other students also, because when they start talking about cyber safety, the other students feel that they should not be left behind. So it's like a nice, healthy competition happening among the students. And, as everybody else was saying, the convergence is very important. We understand that in the police, from the police department, we can do only so much, and that is why we collaborated with the education department, with the cyber safety experts, NGOs, and of course our police personnel from the SHE teams. And all of them have been working very hard for the last 10 months, and the results are actually there to be seen. Very confident cyber ambassadors, trying to, teach not only the students, but also the adults about cyber safety.
And did their vulnerabilities come down? Did they start feeling more confident? And the best part of this initiative, I would say, is small towns, the villages, where you have taken this entire journey, because I think that's where the real story is. Did you also see any kind of the change in response, particularly when you move towards vernacular?
There was a lot of excitement right from the beginning itself. So when we started in English, you know, and of course, let me tell you, we are also leveraging technology. So in order to reach out to these students, we have an LMS, the Learning Management System in place, and through which each student has their own ID and password, and they log into that. So it was a new experience for them. Initially, we had a lot of problems in teaching them how to open an email, how to log in, and all those things took about a month, but now they are real experts in that. And if you have the opportunity, you can speak to those little students also, and on how confident they have become. And it's wonderful to interact with them today when they are so confident about expressing how they should be safe on the cyberspace, at the same time also promoting how the positive side of the internet also. So it's not just, internet is after all not all bad. There is good part of the internet also, which we try to tell these students so that they know where their limit is. And also, everybody tries to tell that the other person is bad, but we understand that from among the society itself, there are bad persons coming up. So among the students also, among the young generation, there are so many who are such people who are using the internet wrongly. And that is where it is important that the youngsters themselves tick each other out, that this is wrong and this is right. And another thing we wanted is that they be like a bridge between the police department and any other person who needs our help. So it's like a revolution now, and we don't want to stop at this. After 10 months, we need that sustainability, and that is why we have collaborated with the education department, and we are going to start another set of 10 months program, and it is totally in the rural areas, as you were saying.
Congratulate you for this revolution that's happening in the villages of Telangana, and I'm so proud of that. Upasana?
Maria, if you don't mind, just wanted to pick up on a few things. I think you've been continuously emphasizing on the collaboration, and I couldn't agree more. And I think that is why when we launched this campaign, the goal was to bring in all the stakeholders on one platform. And to what you were saying, Jayeshi, about mental health experts. In fact, in our Delhi conclave, we had actually 2 mental health experts, Maria, if you recall, who came in and spoke about the social stigma and the shame that comes with harassment, and the fact that when you don't feel safe in a digital environment or in a real physical environment, you're not really able to unlock the potential that you have. And I think most women in today's environments restrict themselves and don't make the right choices which are good for them because they don't feel safe. And more, the internet is becoming the digital square, for these sort of conversations. And if we don't know how do we remain safe, or we don't understand what are the tools we can use to actually be safe and yet grow our small business or talk to our friends and family, or like Upasana ji, post some incredible content which is very inspirational. I follow you as well. And if I don't know what the rules of the road are or what the digital etiquette is, it's like every time, I remember, and we all do, when we are kids, we go out, we have certain rules. Our parents tell us, hey, don't talk to strangers, don't take something from someone you don't know. And that's what we're trying to do with a lot of our curriculum, which we have on our itsnotok.in website. You can go visit it, and it's like the 5-6 tips that you can take away to make sure that how do you keep your digital communication, whether it's on social media channels or just over phone calls and SMSs. And I think, please do go take that. And I think the third thing I really wanted to talk about is, everything around regulation and, building trust. And, we've been trying to work with JSG to try and get all the verified numbers onto our platform, under our government directory service tab within Truecaller, because if you want to reach out to police stations, hospitals. These are important numbers, and you don't want to be searching for them and find wrong numbers when you really need them. So we've actually built a telephone directory and are in the process of onboarding many more states and also central numbers and central helpline numbers particularly, so that you have the ability to find it within Truecaller and don't necessarily need to go out of the app and quickly make that call, whether that's to the 112 helpline or the 181 national helpline or even the 1930 financial fraud helpline. That's something which is rising, and we continue to work with the government on that. So just wanted to bring that out because I think
Sure.
those are important issues.
Yes, Upasana, we have been discussing about the digital world, but the digital medium is very much a reflection of the society. There are good elements, there are bad elements, like everywhere else. But we have been emphasizing on collective effort. Who do you think are the stakeholders in that collective effort for making safer spaces?
So there are lots of layers to this. I think, lots of things pass in society with people overlooking them because they just feel that, a lot of things will be unsettled for them and they're uncomfortable if they speak out. So I think first is that all of us need to have a sense of confidence within ourselves to understand that, if we have this confidence in us, then, we can deal with a lot of stuff that we are facing online because, you're going out there into a different world. It's like how you're stepping out. So the same way the online space needs to be treated like that. But, there are some rules of respect. When I got onto Instagram or, Twitter, I got a list of rules and regulations to follow, community guidelines. And a lot of us don't read that, but we always stick. So, the thing is, if we can get constant reminders to actually follow those guidelines, I think it'll be really helpful. I think in schools, as, the Telangana government and others have been doing, I think it's very, very important for them as well to educate people. But I think the underlying fact is, do not comment or say anything if you don't have the guts to say it to their face. If you cannot say it to their face, don't put it in the comments. And that is what you're human, that's what actually differentiates you from human to animal. So, if you are a human being and you're proud of being one, then please have the guts to say whatever to people's face. And don't shy back and, write things behind someone else's skin. That's one. The other thing is, the other part of the spectrum is that, can you imagine what the person that's harassing someone is going through? Obviously, there's something not right with the person, as Jayashree has spoken about, So I think we should go out there and try and help them in the correct way possible. Right now, the person who's being harassed is getting help. I think we should start helping the person who is harassing as well. So, if you take care of that person, obviously something is not right with them and their family. And I think sympathy should be shown to both ends.
What digital
Can I
hygiene?
intervene once
Yes,
here?
please.
Actually, very rightly put by Upasana also. In fact, from the SHE team side, when we are nabbing people, initially the only thing in mind is punish them. But we try to know why they are doing what they are doing. For these boys. Then we understood that we are not experts, so we roped in certain psychologists. And now every month we are doing counseling for these young boys, and there has been a marked change in the statistics also of those who are minor delinquents. So those people who, in 2014 when we started the SHE teams, we had almost 70 to 80% delinquents as minors below 18. And now, after all these awareness campaigns and these counseling sessions, it has come down to almost 20%. So definitely it makes a difference. And counseling we are doing along with the parents. So because the parents also should know what their wards are doing and what their wards are up to. So this really makes a difference,
So you
yes.
shifted the goalpost in terms of stigma. The harassers should be knowing, their parents should be knowing.
Yes, parents should be knowing. And another thing is, there's a lot of, talk about, tolerating and being thick-skinned. But actually what we felt when we started the SHE teams was that women don't want to come out for various reasons. Okay. And that was the biggest challenge that we saw when we started the SHE teams. And that is why we ensured that first thing is that we will keep the identity of the victim confidential. That is number one. Next is we will ensure that, we will give her a lot of platforms, whether it is through the WhatsApp or through the other social media pages or through an anonymous SHE team's office located outside the police station. All these things we tried to find out, the psyche of the woman on what will help her to come out and report. And, as you're saying, call it out, you speak out, report crime. That is what we wanted. And, hopefully, SHE teams has done their bit, but we have a long way to go also.
Yes, certainly. But well begun is half done. So it's completely, it's great to listen to those fascinating stories. Before I give the final words to Mr. Jayesh, what is the digital hygiene that you would recommend? Some digital hygiene tips?
See, it's before going out, you take a shower, right? So the same way, before going on to the internet, you have to realize that there are a few rules and regulations you need to follow. If you want the respect, if someone comes with their hair all over and with body odor and things like that, you have a certain persona of them. So digitally also, when you're coming out, you're bringing your persona in. So it is very important to maintain that digital hygiene in terms of your persona as well. So I think that when you put things online, that, not everything that's thought-provoking has to come onto my social media. I do have a lot of thoughts, but I speak about it in different forums that make sense. Don't use that social media as a tool to just go out there and speak about how bad society is and, oh, I want to do this. Do it in a nice way where you can make a positive change and build a community. Because when you have community support, that is when you can make a change to yourself. Absolutely. Because you're motivating yourself and the others too. So I think the digital hygiene you need to maintain is to keep a very nice, positive community atmosphere around you. Like how you would do while you go out for dinner with friends, etc.
Jayji, your final thoughts on the campaign. Call it out because it's not okay, and particularly the role of men as allies, as supporters, as partners.
Of course. So I mentioned earlier also that this is a very timely campaign because the digital penetration is going to become many, many folds more. And lots of first generation users are also going to come to digital. Digital is also being encouraged in the vernacular, so it's going to explode like never before. And therefore, how to handle these adverse consequences, etc., is very, very important. But I'll reiterate something which I've been mentioning since a while, which is that, see, the digital world has been made easily accessible, low entry barriers for a purpose, and also anonymous so that more and more people use it and obviously benefit from it. But as we have all understood, there are certain elements who have their own kind of personality, weaknesses, etc., who also get into it. So I still feel that it is possible to identify such people at an early stage, red flag some of their digital behavior, and maybe keep an eye on them. And it's not to say that there's the wherewithal with all the large companies and even with the government is not there, but definitely much more coordinated effort is needed. So, for example, if I'm creating a Facebook account and instead of putting my picture as the profile picture, I put someone else's, some film actress's picture, or I changed my DP every so often to kind of put someone else's picture, etc. Some red flag should be raised. It should not mean that I'm immediately suspect of something more heinous, but definitely some alarm about my behavior should be raised. An eye should be kept on me, and we have the wherewithal to do all these things. So that is one, that this will also make internet a safer place, and it will encourage, as Pragya rightly pointed out, any kind of harassment which you face, however thick-skinned you will be, but it will kind of bother you. It will pull you down. It will, at least for a moment, it will cause some element of sadness in you, and obviously that kind of inhibits you from doing something more on the internet as per your full potential. So that is the loss that we are kind of causing to the society by encouraging or by at least remaining passive about some of these delinquencies which happen on the internet. And obviously, men have a very important role to play. So while Swati is mentioning that they do counseling of the parents, see, if you really dive deep into this entire sociological phenomena, it all starts from the child rearing practices. When a child is small, and if you give a signal at home that between the parents, like if the father shouts at the mother or even hits her in some context, it's all okay. It's very manly to hit your wife or abuse her, etc., etc. These are the signals he grows up with. And obviously, when he gets a chance to get into a world which has low entry barriers, which is anonymous, it doesn't cost anything, he kind of misuses his position. So larger social issues are obviously there, but men have a very important role to play. No denying that.
Okay, let me open the floor for the questions now. Please go ahead. Yes, please. I'm going to ask the mic to be moved. Please introduce yourself and go ahead.
Good evening, everybody. I'm Mrs. Wing Commander Sanjay Vidyadharan. I'm from Air Force. I'm an ex-Indian Air Force officer. It's a general question about ladies being harassed. Like if a lady is harassed and the culprit is pinned, an FIR is raised, but the bottom line is after the FIR is raised, a lady has to pay to hire a lawyer. Is there a way where, a legal aid is given wherein, you don't have to get justice by paying money, by having a hole in the pocket, immaterial of financial status, whether poor or rich?
No, once an FIR is registered, the government takes care.
Okay.
We give there's something called the public prosecutor from the government side.
Exactly.
They will take care of the entire case. So
yeah, but what I mean to say is, like, a lady is harassed, if she has to have justice, she has to pay for it, right? Because I have read, like, legal aid is given only for financially weaker segments.
No, as I said, once the case is registered, we take it up.
Okay.
It's our case. It's the government's case now.
Fine.
And we will fight for the victim, basically.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Okay.
Thank you.
Who next? Please raise your hand. Let the mic be moved. Go ahead, introduce yourself.
Yeah. Hello, this is Hajra, currently engineering BTech final year student from Shadan Women's College of Engineering and Technology. A student entrepreneur. I have a startup named Alpha, where we aim to revive schools and manage schools, okay? So, community lead at Adventure Park too. So, Adventure Park is a place which supports the students.
Hajra, will you be able to, place the mic closer
okay.
to you? Yes,
so, community lead at Adventure Park too. So, Adventure Park is a place where, we help students to convert their raw ideas to businesses. So, listening to my introduction, everybody feels that I am really confident or, I can fight to the world. But I just want to share a recent incident, March incident, where I was going through an harassment since last 7 to 6 years, but could not, let it out. I could not call it out. So,
well, you're calling it now. So
exactly.
Massive, big strength to you.
I never imagined myself, speaking something like this in front of these people. I mean, such, a large number of people, because I could not even speak it in front of my parents. Where I go in my office, Adventure Park, Miraj Fahim, he's the CEO of Adventure Park. He created a really good community of people. I used to go there and, spend my days there just because I want to ignore that man at my home. He was my neighbor. So, coming there, there were many times I got, mentally, I was not able to, concentrate on my work and stuff. There was a time where boys in our group, while we were highlighting the roles of a men in, all these scenarios. In my case, the major role were played by the men. They were two guys named Osaid and Faik. They run a women's safety startup. They make a jacket, electro jacket. So whenever woman walks in, and if she have a fear of getting attacked, there are 2000 volts of electricity. She has to just on it, and a man get tased. So he has a startup, but not talking about the startup. They took me out. They talked to me. It took me a lot to confess in front of them what was happening since last 5 to 6 years.
You have to sum it up now, please.
Okay, after listening there, they pushed me to the Bharosa and She team. It was only 15 days where they cleared the matter. I mean, I was so scared, and my home, at my parents knew nothing about it. Even I'm standing here, my mom and my dad know nothing about it, because I'm scared that they won't let me go out after listening this. But She team and Bharosa, they completely maintained the anonymity of it, and they handled the case so smoothly. Initially, I just went to check it out how they work, if my name could come out. But
Thank you, Hajra. Thank you so much. So
Thank
would
you
you
so
say something, and then I'll take the other question.
See,
please.
I have nothing to say except to say that I feel very ashamed that there are men in the society who do these kind of things. I think someone in the previous panel was telling that no doesn't really mean no to some people, and it's very, very unfortunate and matter of great shame that such people are still around.
Yes,
In fact, I would also say that, men are our greatest support also at the same time. Because she teams as such, when we say she teams, the nomenclature seems to be only women. But most of our she teams are men colleagues, and our men, officers who are part of the she teams. So it's not that all men are bad. In fact, we keep saying, when I go to the colleges also, I tell them that 85% of men are good. It's only the 15% who are bad. And why don't you please ensure that those 15% of people behave themselves? So definitely men are not bad. I will definitely not say that. But yes, there are such people in the society, and we have to all come together to ensure that they are.
No, I'm so glad you brought that up, because I think, with Call It Out, that's been our intention, where for women, of course, like herself, where she feels empowered because she sees 5 other women talking about an issue like this. And we had a similar experience in Delhi, where Shaina ji actually spoke about her harassment case for the first time and said that she was, harassed extensively. But when you have many more women joining together and talking about this, I think more and more girls in this room get inspired to say it's not okay. But also encouraging men to stand up and say, if you're seeing harassment, please call it out and go out and support the woman who's being harassed. So, thank you so much for sharing your story.
Do we have one more story, or I can wrap up this discussion?
I
then?
have a question, if you don't mind.
Yes, please, go ahead.
And I would really like any one of you to answer it for me. What is the definition of harassment? Is a woman cooking at home every day harassment? Is it... What is the definition of harassment? True definition.
So, in a very deeper way, that is also harassment, because you have created a stereotype of a woman, a patriarchal stereotype. The woman is only good if she's confined to a kitchen, and also that's also harassment. See, I guess the way one would define harassment is that anything which is done to block her potential, block her true potential, in my opinion, will be harassment.
Okay, let's wrap up this discussion. Thank you so much for joining us, Jayaji, Upasana and Swati. Thank you so much for your time, and let's invite Pragya to felicitate the guests.
Yes, no, thank you so much for being here. It means a lot to us, and it was
thank you to our panelists. Thank you, Maria. Thank you, Pragya. To keep the cyberspace safer for children, the Telangana police has started training students and teachers in fighting cybercrime. They are called cyber ambassadors. Now, these cyber ambassadors are working on the ground to make other students and children aware about cyber safety. I would now like to invite back on stage Ms. Swati Lakra, Additional Director General of Police, ma'am, Women's Safety, Telangana, to give a token of encouragement and appreciation to our cyber warriors, our cyber ambassadors. Kashish Singh, may I invite Kashish Singh? Manika. Well, on that powerful note, we come to the end of the Call It Out Telangana Town Hall. I would like to thank all the dignitaries, honorable ministers, policy makers, law enforcers, influencers, and other leading voices from diverse fields who have joined our fight against harassment. And thank you all for being such a wonderful audience. It's time now to stand united against harassment and become the change we want to see in the world. Call it out because it's not okay. Call It Out Telangana Town Hall is now closed, and I would now like to invite all of you for dinner. Thank you so much.